some of the hottest cars New York has ever seen. From dropping some of the hottest verses rappers ever heard. From the dope spot with the smoke, fleeing the murder scene, you know me well. From nightmares of a lonely cell, my only hell. But since when y'all brothers know me to fail? Heck no, we're all my brothers with the rubber grips for shots. And if you with me, mama, rub on your tits and whatnot. I'm from the school of the hard knocks. You must not let outsiders violate our box in my pot. Let's stick up the world and split it 50-50, Let's take the dough and stay real taking, And sip the Chris and get pissy, flowing beneath me like the memory of my brother Biggie, baby. You know it's hell when I come through. The life and times of Sean Carter, brother, volume 2. Y'all brothers get ready. It's the hard knock life for us. It's the hard knock life for us. Instead of treated, we get tricked. Instead of kisses, we get kicked. It's the hard knock life. It's the hard knock life for us. It's the hard knock life for us. Instead of treated, we get tricked. Instead of kisses, we get kicked. It's the hard knock life.
Hello everybody, glad to be back with you guys for this Friday surprise AMA, and let's face it, some other key things we'll get into as well, with our special guest who is Evan, who is the co-founder over at Dragon Labs. He's going to be introducing to you guys publicly something that we've been talking about actually on the Patreon. So the Patreon's got this about a week in advance. Shout out to you guys on the Patreon, but it's the tokenization of truth. Think about how valuable that will be. And this is basically Aeonix. The ticker symbol is ONIX. They have introduced this originally to our brothers in the space, right? Shout out to Jarno. Shout out to all the guys over on the Quant show. And we're going to get more into about why ONIX is significant, what they bring to the table. But before we get into it all and read a few comments from you guys, I want to welcome Evan. How you doing today, sir?
Hey, Max. I am wonderful. Thank you so much for having me. Very excited to be here and to share what we've been working on.
Yeah, absolutely. And just a little disclaimer, I am not paid by these guys, but I would love to support the whole thing of the Q&T community. You know, that's where it's at for me. Okay, so while these guys aren't officially, you know, like part of, I guess you could say, the ecosystem, they're part of the Quant community ecosystem, and that is worth pointing out, and that is cool stuff. So we're going to introduce to you guys what Dragon Labs is all about. We're going to get into some of these demos and why this project stands out. But before we do, you guys know the drill. Consider smashing that like. Let's get into the first comment of the day. Just kind of welcome you guys in because it is a live show. We got Francisco Dennis Lil in the house. Good to see you, sir. Always, Francisco. I really mean that, man. I need to catch up on some of your comments, as always. It's been challenging lately, right? Rory's in the house. Good to see you, Rory. DJ Miller. Good to see you. Good to see you. Victory V. Hi, Max. Hope all is well. Yes. Thank you very, very much. And we'll wait for a few more people to come in. So GS is in the house. And if anything, we're going to go ahead and start here in a bit. We got a decent crowd both on X and YouTube. Not too shabby. Let's jump into it and again why this all matters to you. So a little disclaimer, if you share the program with some other people on X, there's going to be a giveaway. I'm going to give away at least one decent wallet, and depending on how far we scale up, you know, I'll do some more. There is some stipulations. If you're just brand new, sorry, you don't qualify. This one is for the OGs of the space. So nothing against you. I will enter you into a fair, I guess you could say, contest, okay, which will be on this, and I'll spin that thing, and then, you know, we'll enter some people. So in order to participate in this, all you got to do is simply type into the comments. You shared. We're talking about the internet of, the tokenization of truth. Well, Quant's the internet of trust. So there's a little bit of trust here to make sure you did the right thing. But I'm looking at people like, who am I looking at? I'm looking at Francisco Dennis Lill. I'm looking at Rory. You guys are some of the OGs. DJ Miller, Victory V, GS. I mean, I recognize some of you guys. So again, if it's just some brand new person I've never seen before, no offense, nothing against you, but this is for some of the OGs, just to kind of recognize some of the people who've been in the space with me for over 4 years, okay? But anyway, we'll start filling in some names on that in a bit, which is cool. So this is a fun thing we're going to do. But anyway, let's kick it over back to you, Evan, and get into some of this. So one of the first things I want to introduce to the community, Evan, is this right here. I'm going to go ahead and share this on the screen. So basically, let me take out the comment for just a moment. Good to see Obi. When we talk about this, right? I don't even know if I allow me to zoom in properly. Hold on. Let's do a stop share on that. StreamYard has some new settings and kind of gets funky, so bear with me. Bear with me. All right. So you're part of Dragon Labs. What is one thing that you definitely want to get across to the community about this whole thing of, positive impact technology? Obviously, there's a lot about Aeonix and AI. Take it away.
Oh man, that's a big question to start with. To keep things very high level, I guess initially, the concept of positive impact technology and aligned incentives is that through tokenization, through programmability and immutability of completely visible and transparent data, we can create systems and structures that organize people, energy, value, and existing business practices in such a way to where you can have greater degrees of efficiency, where things do good and do well at the same time. You can reduce this to something as simple as if you could take the aggregate of energy that goes into an industry and have a fraction of that verifiably translated to positive impact. But in actual practice, what we're doing is we're breaking down the first principles of how value actually functions in this industry, and then aligning it to tokenized applications that solve respective business issues while like harnessing this collective kind of inertia of human energy in a way. And maybe that's a bit too esoteric to start with. So perhaps we could go to the About tab and I'll kind of walk you guys through what this means and how we got here.
Yeah, by all means, share some of your journey. We're all on this journey of crypto, blockchain, DLT, and so on. So who we are. Actually, I'll blow this up a little bit more. People can see it because some people are watching on their cell phones. But anyway, go ahead.
So my formal introduction to the Web3 space began in early 2020. I have been a technology enthusiast my whole life, but I don't have a formal background in technology. I wasn't a programmer. I didn't ever go to school for computer science or anything, but I always found it interesting. And that path eventually crossed for me in 2020 when the whole world shut down. And I found myself without a way to pay my bills. I was at the time I was working in the health and fitness industry, and that particular industry was essentially completely shut down for almost 2 years straight. So with the abundance of time and the necessity of requiring capital, I kind of organically found my way into the crypto side. And coming from, initially being kind of like a traditional investor and getting involved with stocks and options, I was only looking at it from the value side, the potential to make money, that you can seemingly get a greater opportunity, a greater, potential for arbitrage than elsewhere. And obviously 2020 and 2021 played out the way they did. They were pretty much just so overwhelmingly driven by positive liquidity gains that you pretty much couldn't go wrong. I mean, one way or another, if you were involved in this space in those times, you probably did decently well. And from this, I was excited, just like a lot of other people. And we started to try to come to conclusions and apply concepts that we learned. But the issue was we were using anecdotal information to try to create some type of axiom of truth. So essentially, we were trying to take this abstract landscape of things that we thought we understood and apply them into products and business practices and things that were fundamentally unsound. And the result was that it didn't work. Anyone who stayed in crypto, who was in that time and stayed in for longer, experienced this too, where even though you had a lot of things that made sense in a lot of ways, it didn't play out the way we think it would. Pretty much everyone involved in crypto lost money in that period of time. And it was in that process that we decided to do this full time, and that we were going to dive into research the right way and really try to uncover the secrets on how these things work. So Max, if you scroll down just a little bit, we've got a kind of a timeline that walks you through these different events. We've initially covered getting into crypto in 2020. Some of you guys may know me as Hungarian Hortail. I was pretty active within the Quant community and contributing to research discussions. But it really wasn't until 2022 that we took things to the next level. And it started off with, for one, me learning about computer science and programming. I taught myself how to program. And this was before ChatGPT came out and made it much easier to bridge those gaps, and actually built an entire game. This became known as Rescue Pals. And Rescue Pals is one of the products from Dragon Labs. It's essentially a monster tamer RPG, in the very classical sense, where every item and character in the game is actually a verified digital twin representation of some type of a charitable or philanthropic action. So in the same way that you look at going to go buy like skins for your character in a particular game, or a loot box, or any other type of action, like essentially microtransaction, we just align the microtransaction layer to philanthropic actions. So you basically get a receipt from your charitable donation that proves what you did, where the money went, what it accomplished, and also represents your character, your experience, and that kind of aggregate towards your profile. Now, alongside that, we started to do research into AI systems, starting off with just how do you use the tools that are out there? What are the limitations? What can these things do? But as time went on, we actually started to look at how do we build our own systems? How do we incorporate the pieces that we understand and the things that we have access to in such a way to where you can create novel solutions? You can solve problems in a different way. And it really wasn't until 2024, and Max, you can probably get a little further in that timeline if you'd like, but it really wasn't until 2024 where the AI product side of things started to come together. There should be a little slider on the right. You may have to zoom out a little. And from 2024 forward, we continued to work on developing our approach to building AI systems. And not knowing it at the time, we were unintentionally building out a framework on how to create a trustworthy and verifiable AI system. So in parallel, we went through a token economic research series where essentially we did thousands upon thousands of calculations on chain, testing our own tokens, launching tokens, creating liquidity pools, experimenting with all of the different ways that you can interact with that, and recording the data. And then once we had the data, we were able to then identify patterns in that ultimately resulted in us reverse engineering the true first principles of exactly how price works in crypto. Not from a speculative sense, not from some philosophical, esoteric sense, simply a reversed engineered observation of real world dynamics. And this continued for almost a year and a half before evolving into what became known as the STE framework, the Sustainable Token Economic Framework. We chose to showcase this by launching the ONIX token. So as we get into that later on, it's not just the utility token for the platform. It's actually a representation of our research thesis. So some pretty interesting stuff there. I know that was kind of all over the place. So I want to give it back to you and see if there's any questions from yourself or from the audience at this point.
Yeah, sure. And it's okay to be all over the place. It shows you're human. You're not AI as represented in what you guys are doing, right? So it shows you're a human being. Something I want to point out here, actually, before we get more into it, is a little more background, right? So you see here where it says STE framework, R&D, testnet, mainnet deployments, Dragon Labs, reverse engineers, STE frameworks from live data and game theoretic experiments. I like what you mentioned in regard to games. I'm looking to develop by no later than 2030 a couple key video games. My crypto in-game, I guess you could say. A lot of people wondering, like, why are you so deep into some of this stuff? Why do you keep talking about generational wealth? I'm looking to create some triple A style games, and I realized that um, as much as we could reference some of the AI stuff, there is also going to be a sense of that human element. And for me, it's all about gameplay. So while I want to reference the power of AI integration, and while I want to reference like these new game engines and what they're doing, um, I also will look more into some projects or look into more of your background or your gaming background, which I think is cool. But all these things, give me a lot of insight about like, what is this project? What are they all about? So before I actually kick it over to the comments, I just want to show you guys some other things real quick. I'll leave this on the screen. We'll jump over to this here in a bit. This project was also featured by Check, and a lot of you guys already know about Check. Small, low market cap gem, also is ISO TC307. Again, that Quant network standard. Again, interesting to see some of these companies highlight Aeonix. We're going to talk a little bit more about that, but before we do so, we are going to kick it back to the comments just for a brief bit, and basically, let's see what we have. So for one, let's jump down. Let's see if you have any specific questions. We do want to welcome Crypto Holmes. Hello, hello. You're an OG. So again, thank you. And for you guys who want to participate in the giveaway, we're giving away at least one decent wallet, maybe more, depending on how high we tick up. There is a few rules. You got to be an OG in this space for a minimum of, I would say, a year or more. If you're just a brand new person, I mean, we do appreciate you, but I don't want just, do a giveaway for just somebody just going to be in and out like the burger, right? Like, you got to be here supporting this space for a while. It's just kind of recognition for some of the OG guys. So who are some of the OGs? You're definitely an OG. Victory V, GS, obviously Rory, right? A lot of you guys. So I do appreciate that. Let's see what you guys said real quick. Christopher, we are talking about this thing. It's Aeonix, and yes, you did hear Evan talk about ONIX. It's not XCN as in that project, right? This is ONIX through Aeonix. So it has nothing to do with XCN or ONIX. So just a little disclaimer, just in case some of you guys just connected. All right, so that puts you in, and I'm trusting that you did it, okay? So as a result, let's just share this real quick. Let's pull it up on the tab. We're gonna put your name in there, and you are Victory V. So we're just gonna put V for now, okay? So you already got an entry. And then let's go further down. Thank you for that. Ahmed, good to see you. We're talking about this project that's connected to basically, if you want to call it, the QNT community. It's like more of a community token, but so much more, than meets the eye. I'm gonna try to see if you guys have any specific questions. Look into Toncoin. We have looked into Toncoin in the past, but thank you for pointing that out. Also want to go further down to some comments. Here's an OG. Good to see you. Maybe somebody tipped you off to come. Yeah, that's fine too. Good to see you, Cool Cat. All right, let's see here. Gotta love me. He says March 2025, 400 million from biggest VC. I hope that is not what I'm thinking, where like some of those bots that spam my channel with A16Z. So anyway, moving further along. I'm not saying you're a bot, but you never know. And Heath Overledger, made it to class this time. Greetings. Yes, yes. Take advantage of the giveaway if you choose to do so. If you don't, then you guys are given a 100% chance to away to V. I'm just giving you a heads up. I mean, you really just want to give it away to V? V wants no competition? Is that what's going on here? All right. XRP Rel. Yo, I love your work, bro. Keep up the great work. Pay off. Thank you. Thank you. So anyway, just giving you guys a heads up about the giveaway, but also want to jump back to you, Evan. So, I do have some questions for you before we kick it into it. And this is, I guess we'll start off here, like we mentioned. So, you guys were featured in Check. What is the main thing that you would like to highlight other than, what Quant Papa basically shared here in regard to verified human in the loop AI training?
Sure. So Aeonix competed in the Verifiable AI Hackathon several months back. And this was a hackathon designed on creating AI agents that solve different problems while using some type of DID VC infrastructure, so self-sovereign identity infrastructure, to establish transparency and trust. So you're not just looking at AI as this black box, information goes in and you get a result out. Instead, turning it into something where you can see exactly what's happening, where it came from, why it gave you what it did, and whether or not that's even something that you should trust. So with this particular, this article, this is actually from Sprite Plus and Check. And Sprite is a standards-based organization out of the UK that works on privacy and identity. And the purpose of this article was to demonstrate how AI systems, in particular AI agents, can be created that apply these privacy preserving principles while solving things that benefit humans. So not just having a functional agent that goes out and even has some type of economic gain, but rather something that is a net benefit to humanity. And I'll touch on one more thing with your question. Oh, is this person a bot? I mean, everywhere you look, and increasingly so, there is evidence that shows how close we are to the internet being essentially controlled by machines. I mean, it's for over 10 years, the majority of the traffic on the internet has not been from humans. But now we're getting to this place where the majority of the information that's created on the internet is not real things. And the majority of the people on the internet are not real people. And as we move into this world where you can have infinite amounts of fully autonomous machines moving at a speed beyond humans' ability to even comprehend and automatically seeking out every possible bit of arbitrage anywhere they can get, you start to see how hostile the internet is going to become. There's actually a really cool paper if anyone wants to dive into this particular subject a bit more. It's called the Dark Forest Internet Theory. Maggie Appleton specifically has a great little write-up on it that I think is very easy to understand. But if that's something you're interested in, I would encourage you to look into it because it's very fascinating. And it very much influences how we've designed our incentive structures. Like you can't assume that people will be good. You can't assume that you can trust people. The only thing you can do is build systems that give people options that they can choose from. And when the options utilize game theory to where the most desirable financial outcome is also the protocol alignment, the positive action, that's where you start to get into these concepts of aligned incentives. But to bring it back kind of locally, this was featuring two of our builds, the first of which we're looking at here, verified human in the loop training. So if you know much about how AI improves, you know that data is the most important thing. You've probably heard the meme, data is the new oil, but it's very much based in reality. And when it comes to improving AI systems, the ability for your AI to improve is gated upon your ability to give it high quality data and then interpret that data appropriately so the machine can action it. So when you have these large language models that are out there ingesting billions and billions of parameters of data and just massive volumes of information, you start to get one, you're getting AI generated information being fed back into an AI, which is already documented to create issues. But two, you just overall don't have a very good degree of accuracy. So there's this need to solve for how AI gets better, but also protect the privacy and data of an individual and ensure that the data that you're giving to the AI is actually something that makes it better. And what this here essentially is a system built into Aeonix that allows you to verify your social identity, your ability to prove, hey, I'm a real person, in the same way that X uses payments to verify it. And through these verification channels, you essentially upgrade your account status which gives you the ability to participate in training the AI. So just like you solve CAPTCHAs when you're using Google, or you are asked to click on how many of these are motorcycles, or click on the bridges, or whatever it is, these repetitions over time, thousands and millions of simple binary actions, actually produces an enormous amount of value for improving AI systems. And what this essentially is a gamified framework that allows us to reliably improve our baseline AI architecture through a game theoretical security sense. In short, I don't need to trust that you will give me the right answer because you're trying to do the right thing for me, or for Aeonix, or for anyone else. I know at the end of the day, if I give you the choice between $1 and 10 cents, and the only difference is you clicking left versus right, you're going to click the right one because you want the dollar instead of 10 cents. And that's kind of that core application of what game theory means in behavioral actions and decision-making patterns.
Very well said. There's something else I want to jump into, and I just pulled this up, and I thought, who better to highlight you guys than somebody that we've referenced numerous times here, and that's Gilbert Verdian. So you're not oblivious to this. You've seen this yourself, but there's a lot of new people, and there's some people here as we speak who have never seen this, and we'll get back into some questions here because I'm glad you guys are starting to ask some questions. That's the point of this. AMA Ask Me Anything, right? So I want to jump into this for just a brief moment. Okay, so you see here specifically on July 10th, you guys have stated, "Thank you, Gilbert. We believe trustworthy, verifiable AI systems," because Evan was just talking about that, "are foundational for practical AI apps. It's an honor to have your approval." Gilbert Verdian, Jesse calls him Gilbert the GOAT. "In today's world of AI, really liking Qbot. Well done, community." To get that recognition from somebody like Gilbert, who a lot of people have pointed out, Quant, they're not focused on retail. But in reality, Gilbert is never going to forget about his roots. And to see him even take the time, in my opinion, to recognize a community project such as your own is very, very cool. At the end of the Quanfi show, when you were introducing Qbot, Evan, you had a key takeaway, and I, of course, include this in a, specifically in the Patreon side of things. And even though it was kind of like a quick wrap up, your statement about tokenizing truth, that for me was the aha moment of all this. Because I want you to touch on this a little bit more. And before you do, I'll get to a couple questions. We'll circle back to that. But you cannot put a price on how valuable that really, really is. Quant in itself, how many times have we heard Gilbert Verdian say, Quant is basically the internet of, we talk about, for example, I'm all over the place. The institutional internet of value, something he brought up, recently. But he's always talking about the internet of trust. With Quant, we're building the internet of trust. You guys are tokenizing truth and trust, which they both go hand in hand. So I always think it was just interesting to see all these highlights and whatnot. I will get into the comments because I'm glad that you guys are talking about some of this stuff. First, I want to welcome Pierre. Good to see you, Pierre. Live life. Let's go. Thank you. Victory V says, "Is this connected to Aeonix Touch? Do you want to touch on that?" No. Okay. I saw you, shake your head. So no, it's not. Rory says, does it also provide security identity protection? I mean, my answer is yes, from the brief amount I've seen on, digital IDs and whatnot. You want to touch more on that?
Yeah. So foundationally, Aeonix is designed as what we call a private AI system. And what that essentially means is that every instance of Aeonix exists in its own container. So instead of using, in a lot of cases, one particular set of APIs from a large language model that kind of aggregates that across the internet, what you're doing is building your own unique container for the AI. So all the information that you give it and all the information that goes through the entire system stays completely private. So even in the case of something like Qbot, where the information really isn't that sensitive, it still is completely private. But looking at practical applications for like small to medium enterprise who want to integrate these types of like either workflow automation or private chatbots, it's incredibly important. I would say it is foundational. If you have a business that is trying to implement some type of an automation function that is public facing, then you have an obligation to ensure that it can be trusted, that it will not give your customers incorrect information, that it will not leak their personal details, especially if payments are attached or any internal information. When you look at agentic systems, like what functions does this have access to? You don't have to look far to see examples of how this can go wrong very quickly. So innately, at a foundational level, everything is completely private. And then as you add on the different layers, like with individual accounts and identity buckets, the infrastructure that we use for our identity, for our accounts, for our achievements and everything else is also completely secure and private because you're not even holding information out there. As an example, you have an Aeonix account that is connected to the Aeonix platform. This can recognize your Twitter account, your social media information, your blockchain address and the amount of tokens you hold, the reputation you've gained from achievement and participation throughout the ecosystem. But it can't ever leak that because at a fundamental level, you're not storing this information in a database. You're not using what's called secret sharing to put that information somewhere that it can be referenced. Instead, and this is what it means to have like verified information, you are using something that you already know is true and you are extending it to that next level. So you look at something like 2FA, that's an extension of truth. You're not actually registering your cell phone, your email or something with that particular platform. You're just signing it from that, showcasing that, hey, this is me and I own it. So when you apply that to our particular system, you can have this environment and Maxio like this. When you look at like gaming or any type of peer-to-peer environment, how do you have a leaderboard that showcases any type of on-chain dynamic where people can see what each other has done without seeing what wallets they have or without doxing them in other ways? You either build something that stores that information somewhere, which creates a vulnerability and attack vectors down the road, or you fundamentally address it by not having the information ever stored somewhere in the first place. So yes, and yes. I hope that provides clarity.
That's cool. That was a great breakdown. Thank you for that. So great question, Rory. Thank you for that, sir. Another one we're going to get into. And I like that this guy, I'm just giving you a heads up. I love this guy, right? This guy is my homie from a while back, right? So he asked the tough questions. So get used to this, okay, Evan? Get used to this. And guys, we like the tough questions, right? We don't run for tough questions. He asked you, Evan, how does this project do what Hedera is doing with verifiable AI and Hedera with, for example, EQTY, Labs, Deepin, et cetera, et cetera? That's a great question.
Yeah. So I'll preface this with I'm not intimately familiar with that particular initiative. So I'm going to speak broadly on the industry and on these trends as a whole. And then I can look into this later. And if you really want to get my opinion, just please shoot me a message. Again, my username, I am Hungarian Horntail. You'll see me in the Aeonix groups too. But essentially, what's happening is technology is evolving as it naturally does. And we're trying to get to a place now where it's no longer about can you have any agentic system? Can you have any type of AI agent that can do something? It's about how much can you trust it? Can you actually have that automated system act with greater than 99% efficacy? Can you put it in a business use case and ensure that it's not going to hallucinate or it's not going to leak information or it's not going to learn private details that it shouldn't? And those questions are popping up in virtually every instance of applied AI, not from a theoretical sense, but from a practical sense. Like if you're trying to solve these problems and you're trying to build technology to address these things, what naturally will come up is the friction points. And if you have a system that can't be completely trusted, or if you have something that can't ensure with 100% certainty on the outcome, or at least show you how it got its information, then you're fundamentally unable to deliver on those questions. So whether it's coming from like a business application where there's a need for security, whether it's coming from a crypto kind of like theoretical side of like, how do you do this in a way that doesn't create these issues that we can foresee? Or even if it just comes from a technical side of, hey, how do you just do this better? There's this, everyone is coming together to start working on these questions in their own way. And that's actually why we joined the DIA to work on these things. So I hope that answers your question, if not directly.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think it does. I think he gets it. Guys, I gave you guys the wrong X for Hungarian Horntail. Just to give double check, I'll put this on the screen. This is your correct one because obviously you're following me and you're highlighting Dragon Labs. So it's this one, right? At 3toe sloth 1.
Yes, those who know the Crypto Sloth, the original crypto
Okay.
Twitter username.
Yeah,
But
because I screwed up and I put Hungarian Horntail and I'm like, this person's following nobody. It has one follower. This can't be right. Anyway.
you're fine. I just didn't. I even changed it because it breaks everything.
Yeah. No, I can't blame you. All right, so just keeping that up there for a bit. We'll, this is the guy to follow. Okay. We're actually going to jump back to this other one. I think earlier, this is what we had from Gilbert. Let's get into another question. That's something that we'll get into. I was thinking towards the end of this outline, if you guys, you know, unless you want to touch bases on it right now, it's up to you.
Well, I mean, at a high level, Qbot is an application that uses Aeonix AI. We built it for the Quant community to introduce Aeonix. So rather than trying to come out and arbitrarily just showcase, hey, we built a project, we're doing this, and this is us. We wanted to provide value, and we didn't want to do it from the content creation sense. We wanted to go from like the applied product sense. So what we did is we took the value proposition of what Aeonix is, private, controllable, customizable AI, and we built a community AI agent for the Quant network community. So it basically, it is trained not exclusively because it's in its first iteration, but it's trained on Quant blogs, press releases, company documents, developer documents, anything that is certifiably and undeniably true. So it's not accessing speculative articles. It's not accessing like third-party opinions or just the internet search-based information. And it has very specific parameters to where you can only use it for what it's intended to do. So in practice, and you can actually try this out right now. It's completely free and open to the public. You can add Qbot to any Telegram group that you have, or you can just DM it directly. The username at QNT-infobot. So on Telegram, that's at QNT-infobot. You can just search it up and DM it right now, or again, you can add it to any group and have real-time access to this community agent.
Yeah, I just dropped into the comments for everybody on YouTube for they can look more into that. Yeah, and by all means do so. Let's see if you guys have any other comments before we get more into some of this coverage that we have with Evan over at Dragon Labs. Obviously, we're talking about the tokenization of truth. This is Aeonix, spelled AEONIX. Ticker symbols ONIX. Again, Qbot AMA. And again, as you see here, this is not just anybody. This is Gilbert Verdian literally recognizing that project. That should solidify something here, in my opinion. Gilbert would not go out of his way to highlight anything that he thought was nonsense. So very cool to see that with Gilbert Verdian. A little bit more about this. This guy worked hands down is nothing like any other deep dive around. Oh, you're giving me a compliment. Well, thanks, XRP Rel. That means a lot. I have an announcement. I got to do a brief announcement. So, okay. This is cool stuff. So way earlier, before the power went out, because I live in Phoenix, the power went out and got really hot. My God, it was horrible. It was 117 outside and then it heated up to 95 in here. It was brutal, but things cooled down. Anyway, before all that happened, did a collaboration with Smoke and Jesse over Apex Crypto Consulting. So we're going to have about roughly another 4, maybe 5 videos bringing you guys some of that deep dive stuff that you love. That video, the first part of it, will air tomorrow. So look out for it on this platform. It's an exclusive. Smoke and obviously Jesse get really, really deep about the electronics, excuse me, the SDR. So anyway, just something I want to put out there because the community, you guys have been requesting, Max, get these two guys on the program, and we did just that. So anyway, let's jump back into a little bit of, why we get into these outlines, why it matters to you, and so on. So let's pull up a few more questions. All right, Selmo Foot is in the house. Good to see you. Boom. Always welcome, brother Selmo. And just to give you a heads up, Selmo, or any of you guys are the OGs, we are doing a decent wallet giveaway. The rule of thumb is you have to be a member of this channel for at least a minimum of a year, or somebody that's been supporting me for at least a year. You know who you are. We're gonna give away at least one of those. We might give away two depending on how many people show up for this. There is a rule. You just simply share what I retweeted out earlier, and I'm trusting that you've done that, and all you have to do is type into the comments shared. Now if you're a brand new person to this, you don't qualify for that because I've done giveaways a few years ago where people just show up once and then they're done. You never see them again. Not gonna work out that way this time. So anyway, let's get further into it. SHX, I got some SHX coming out here soon. That will air tomorrow. It's an exclusive with Rue Black. Thank you for being here. SHX 42 QNT. All right, let's go further down. Here's another question. It's from Rory. Glad that you got the questions. Can it, as in Aeonix, be used as an auth service in a Web 2 or Web 3 social media platform?
The verified connection to the profile, yeah, I mean that's essentially what it is. It's basically a private two-factor authentication for social media, except for we're using it on our side to verify the social media. But in theory, there's no reason why you couldn't apply it in other ways too.
Very cool. Let's go further down a few more as well. Someone says, sounds like storing data is the new gold. I would agree with that. Let's see here. All right, that's where I'm giving you guys more information. Here's a question from Pierre Vieira. Is it ONIX token, ONIX? There's so many on Coinbase Wallet. I don't personally use Coinbase Wallet, but I get it. Coinbase Wallet basically has integration and everything, the same as, like Uniswap does and so on. But we'll share a little bit about this, and we'll jump back to this a little bit more as well. If you're interested in this, here it is. Okay, so let's go ahead and full screen this for a second. So here it is basically on dextools.io. In fact, I'll just drop it into the comments to make it easier for you guys. Okay. Currently speaking, it is going for a little over 14 cents. It's up about 15% in 24 hours. You will need some wrap BNB for the pairing to get this. If you guys are familiar with platforms like Trust Wallet, you know that they have a DEX built in, which is basically PancakeSwap. So the pairing again is going to be wrapped, BNB. So it has some BNB primed and ready to go. If you choose to get into it, it's not, financial advice. You do whatever you want. But current market cap is 6.76 million. Just like with anything, if you don't have a lot of holders and something's new, you gotta get more liquidity. So, yeah, they're looking to get more liquidity. So right now there's 110,000 in liquidity. Circulating supply, I'm going to ask you, Evan, is this accurate, 47 million?
The way that these tools work with any type of token that you're minting on the Ethereum blockchain or an EVM solution is it counts all of the tokens immediately as circulating if you deploy them from the contract. So basically, most tokens will say those two numbers the same just based off of how DEX aggregators read their information. In practice, there are about 30% of the Aeonix tokens circulating, but I want to highlight that we use a novel distributions and allocation structure. It's actually a big part of what our sustainable token economic frameworks are. So while there are 70% of the tokens that are still uncirculating, they're exclusively for community incentives. So they're only going to go to people who hold the token, people who use our applications, people who participate in governance activities, people who are in our staking pools. It is not for VCs, any pre-sale, any type of insider. We genuinely have no insider tokens, no pre-sale tokens, no KOL tokens, no debt on the company whatsoever. Everything that is out there now is how it will be, and any additions to supply are either backed by liquidity or transactional based off of participation as a traditional like Web3 incentive.
All right, I do have some questions from me, myself. So with that said, for the most part, you answer this. One thing that I want to know about is to just double check some of this stuff. So, total supply, if I'm talking about QNT, I mean, come on, like roughly 14.5 million tokens. You guys have 47 million. To me, that's very impressive. Is that accurate? Is it really 47 million tokens? Is that not just the total supply, Evan? Is that going to be the max supply, or are you looking to mint more tokens? These are the questions that are going to get brought up at some point.
Absolutely. That is the maximum supply. There is no ability to create more than that. The smart contract for the ONIX token is actually published and verified. So you can, if you just click, from any of these DEX tools, you have the contract linked right there, and you can look it up and you can read the code yourself. It's all open source.
Yeah, and you guys did have a pretty decent audit score as well, so that's cool. And you guys do see some activity here. Obviously, there's been some buys, there's been some sells. You know how it goes in that regard. But a lot of you guys are looking for a low market cap gem. And here's the beautiful thing about it. I mean, come on, man. This is the beautiful thing about it. This is not some meme token. You're getting something with some real utility connected to the QNT community. Obviously, looking to do some things, as Evan has pointed out. And on top of that, just the concept of tokenizing truth. We're gonna get more into the AI side of this in a little bit, but we're just trying to highlight some key things here.
I want to touch on something because
By all
we'll
means.
go into this more in depth. In fact, we're going to have an entire educational series that comes out later on this year, talking about how token fundamentals work, how price works, and explaining all of our methodology behind this. But traditionally, people look at price and market cap to differentiate the value or the opportunity or opportunity cost of tokens. And the problem with that systemically is that price is not a universal figure. So by extension, market cap is not either. And what that really means is that how price functions is not related to the total supply. It's related to your float or your circulating supply, or even more specifically to the supply available within your liquidity. And as that ratio changes and the distribution of who has those token changes, that is the variables that put into place the actual outcome. So what that means for ONIX, and this is, again, intentional as a demonstration, the market cap is listed the way it is right now, but you'll see that it doesn't move 1-to-1. $1 doesn't move the market cap $1. It's actually it's more than 1,000-to-1. And these these dynamics will be further illustrated within upcoming communications. But when you look at a token, don't look at the price and don't look at the market cap. You have to look at who holds the tokens right now and what are the tokens that are available paired against the amount of money that's out there. And again, this gets incredibly abstract very quickly. So I'm going to avoid diving into that too much and save that for a prepared conversation. But just pay attention. You're going to see the token change a lot. You're going to see these variables change a lot. And it may challenge some of the paradigms that you hold to be true. So I encourage everyone to keep an open mind, and most importantly, ask questions.
Absolutely. We're going to share a little bit more about this here in a bit and put this tab on for just a brief moment. I'm glad you guys are asking some questions. I already have the answer to this. The answer is no, it doesn't have its own blockchain, but again, you guys are on basically with BNB for the time being. But I imagine just like anything, I mean, as you build out more and more, do you guys have some aspirations to maybe potentially do that at some point?
This will be the first documentation of us formally announcing this, but the Dragon Labs ecosystem is designed intentionally as a multi-token ecosystem that connects and optimizes liquidity across multiple blockchains. And while we've initially gone with Binance Smart Chain for this particular application, and it makes a lot of sense as to why we did, we will be having additional liquidity pools and additional tokens on other platforms, other blockchains, as the protocol demands it. And this, again, this aligns with not just Aeonix, but Dragon Labs as a whole and all of the applications we have. They're all tied into the same thing. So if you're a part of what we're doing, you're already involved.
Okay, I have a question for you from me. So with that said, like I cover a lot of projects. Like, the first project I ever cover on this channel is back in December 2021. It's with Clearpool. When Clearpool first came out, they, they were with obviously Ethereum. This was like December 2021. And then shortly after that, I think only like maybe a month or two after, they had, Polygon integration. Then they went with Mantle integration, Optimism integration. Are you guys looking to do more of multi-chain, kind of like we were talking about earlier? So like multi-chain integration, but without doing, like for example, nothing against some of these projects to do it, but you see a lot of this happen like with meme tokens where they'll do like a V3 and a V4, and it's just like, my God, and then who's holding the bag? It's us, right, in retail. If you want to address that.
Yeah, that's a good question. There are systemic misconceptions on what is right and how things should be done to achieve outcomes that are agreed upon. So most people agree on where things should go and how they could get there. But the idiosyncrasies in what actions have to be taken to actually create these things is what creates the difference in results. So while the idea of gaining access to more users and more liquidity and following the interest is somewhat fundamentally sound, those variables are all additional to any type of fundamental dynamics that you put into place with your token and with the distribution. So yeah, if more people can access your token, it can probably grow faster, but it's not necessary. And in fact, a lot of times in pursuit of this idea of greater quote unquote liquidity, projects can actually undermine their own structural designs. And we can actually show through a quite extensive research series empirical evidence on how these expansion models function and how they actually systemically erode the efficiency of liquidity pools. So we're very interested in multi-chain expansions and different ways that we can accomplish that, but from a practical sense rather than a kind of like a chasing liquidity sense.
Gotcha. So, I mean, in reality, kind of like back to the original question, integration with multi-chain obviously seems to be a thing on the roadmap at some point, but not necessarily doing like a V2, V3 type thing, because it would be kind of unnecessary.
Yeah. Again, without getting too in depth on the specific role liquidity plays and how it scales and why that matters so much, it's hard to really dive into these concepts at a level that's like, oh wow, it makes sense. I totally get it. But yeah, it's the benefit and the intention for us to go multi-chain is for the functionality that we can address on other chains. It's to access different types of decentralized applications. It's to integrate different pieces of technology. That's why we would do those types of things. The ability to create liquidity pools for access on that is a function, not the intention. So if you need to add liquidity onto a different chain to support a different tokenized representation, you do so because that's what you needed for your product design, not because you're just trying to chase more people that could buy your token. And if you're doing the latter, then it's probably not going to work because you may not understand the reasons why you're doing that in the first place.
I get what you're saying. Like there's some projects that basically like need a layer 2 solution. It's not that you guys are chasing it down just for the sake of like, well, that'll bring us a lot more liquidity, even though in reality it would. It's just looking at like when it's needed, there's other ecosystems that are, I guess you could say, not necessarily demanding it, but like expressing their needs, then you look at it from that time being of, okay, we need to integrate with this, we need to integrate with that, so on and so forth.
Absolutely. There's a couple ecosystems that we're looking at for various reasons, and looking at some other products that could be applied on those different chains. But at the end of the day, more liquidity is not good. In fact, more liquidity is usually bad if it's just the general sense of more. So it is something that we've designed very intentionally. But I would note, you actually already have multi-chain functionality within the Aeonix application. You can trade on about 12 different blockchains right now. You just can't trade right now between the chains. So I can't make a swap in one transaction from Ethereum to Solana yet. And of course, you can see how that's going to be connected to the entire conversational agent framework too.
Right. Well, like anything, it takes money to make money, and we're very, in my opinion, we're at the floor, and there's a lot of potential here. So, anyway, we're gonna go to a few more comments. I do like what you guys are asking. We did explain this earlier, but glad to see you back, Aventus De Marley. Where can you get this coin? Basically speaking, unless you got some other one you want to share, but like I mentioned, Trust Wallet, Pancake Swap, have some BNB primed and ready to go, and then the pairing will be with the ONIX. Is the actual token. Unless I'm missing something here, and there's some other recommendation that you have, Evan.
Yeah, so right now the token, because it's so early, it's actually not listed on your primary DEX aggregators. So if you try to go to CoinMarketCap, or you try to go to like CoinGecko and search something up for Aeonix, you actually won't be able to find the token quite yet. So I want to emphasize that if you're trying to find the token and you're trying to access it, you need to have the specific contract address. And you can only find it by name on a DEX screener like this. Gecko Terminal or DEX tools are great. But as far as accessing the specific token, the only liquidity, so the only access point for the ONIX token is a Pancake Swap liquidity pool. So you either need to buy it on Pancake Swap or use a DEX that aggregates that in. And so we're not officially endorsing any other DEX access points at this time, just because we haven't gone through them and verified them. So the only official source that we're recommending is to use Pancake Swap directly. We can provide links. And a Pancake Swap is essentially just Uniswap on Binance Smart Chain. As silly as it may sound, it is the same thing.
No, I get that. I know we touched bases on this before. You said that 47 million will be the total supply. So again, circulating is 47 million. So is it still safe to say that 100% of this is in circulation already?
It depends on your definition of circulating. The technical definition that is used in these aggregators, it is circulating, but the probably practical definition that people would use for circulating would say that it's not. It is held by the protocol to be released exclusively for token holders, stakers, governance participation, and ecosystem utilization. But again, I just want to emphasize here that there's no team allocations. There is no private sales. There's nobody getting tokens behind the scenes. Like, this is truly an initiative designed to create a structure to allow people to work together in its truest form of what decentralized environments can do.
Well, the way I look at it is, it seems as though that a person could look at it and be like, yeah, basically all of it's out there, but that's an interesting way of putting it. Anyway,
I can elaborate, because I know there's probably some uncertainty there. People, and rightfully so, are apprehensive when you have a token that is not fully circulated. More supply can come out of the market. That's actually gets into the nuances that really set us apart in our designs. Because when you have, let's just say, we'll call it your circulating supply. As your circulating supply gets smaller, the amount of dollars the amount of tokens that can move the price are decreasing. So if you have, let's just say, 1,000 tokens in a project, and the liquidity pool gets smaller and smaller because people are buying more of it, what happens is you gain the increased ability to take more out of that liquidity pool. So in inflationary designs, even if you have like 1%, 2%, 3% inflation per year in your token, what ends up happening is as your pool scales up and inevitably gets smaller, that 1, 2, 3% of inflation actually can represent 20, 50, 100+% of the total liquidity pool. And that's the part of the structural inefficiencies that create these down and to the right patterns that we've talked about. So when it comes to ONIX, well, there is arguably the technical token inflation. It either happens backed by liquidity, which has zero impact on the token whatsoever, or it happens where it is the exchange of liquidity. So basically, if you are using the platform or you are staking, you are doing things that contribute energy, then you get it back. So it's this constant balance between the value you can earn in the future and the value that goes into stabilizing the chain, and then how those ratios change based off of the scaling of the liquidity pool.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, like there's projects I covered in the past, and I still think they're good projects, like Relio, for example. Relio, I covered that since like 8 cents, and some of us made some pretty good money on it, which is cool. But then after it reached like significant all-time highs, then they of course went to V2. I know you guys mentioned that that's not really something that you're looking to do. It's more of like integration with other chains, and I respect that. But of course they did the V2, and then when they went to a V2, then they decide to mint more coins. So instead of having a very appealing thing of like, for example, 40 million Relio tokens, we went to I think like 172, 175 million, which don't get me wrong, that's still significantly lower than a billion. But for a good year and a half, it's like their project is dumping, as the saying goes, dumping on the holders. So I'm always going to ask these questions, and I'm glad that you're being transparent and answering these questions, because these are the things that get brought up to me either in the DM or in the comments, etc., etc. So on the surface, so far, this seems very impressive. We're going to obviously get back into a few more questions that you guys have. And again, if you're just tuning in, this is Evan, our special guest. He's the co-founder of Dragon Labs. We are talking about the tokenization of truth, which is Aeonix. This is ONIX. And again, if you're just tuning in, why does this even matter? Well, here's one of the main reasons why. Just on the surface, Gilbert Verdian, I mean, my goodness, he highlighted this, which was super cool. And again, Aeonix, we believe trustworthy, verifiable AI systems are foundational for practical AI apps and are to have your approval. Yes, his approval, Gilbert Verdian of the Quant network. So that is nothing I want to dismiss. I'm glad to share that with you guys. We're going to leave that up on the screen for just a brief bit. We're going to get a few more comments and go from there. So
let me emphasize too,
sure.
I mean this. It is truly an honor to have Gilbert recognize what we've been doing, especially the way that he came to seeing it. It shows that one, that he's far more active and passionate about his community than I think a lot of people might guess. And two, it shows that, obviously being ahead of the curve for so long, that he sees some of these foundational differences. It's likely that he understood immediately, hey, look, this is not ChatGPT. Oh yeah, this is not like most of these other artificial intelligence applications that we're evaluating or coming across. So yes, him having that message was such a surprise and a huge honor for us.
Yeah, that's why I keep pulling it up on the screen, because I mean, I get it. Sometimes people disconnect. They're like, I don't know what this is, but you know who Gilbert Verdian is, and how many times we talked about Quant. So that's one thing I definitely want to get in more about. Let's see here. I think we touched bases on this a little bit, but I do appreciate your comment. Thank you for joining from X. Let's see here. Let's go further down. I guess I'll ask this. Gotta love me. Is this a token where you hold the native form or wrapped form only? You want to address
The
that?
native token.
Okay. All right. I mean, you guys got some good questions. How does this compare to the new IoT AI and not IOTA? That's a tough question. I don't know if you want to answer that.
We could really dive in here, not on the specific question, but again on the thematic elements. like this idea of rhetoric and how it influences our decisions and our reasoning and our decision making, because it ultimately takes what should be these simple questions and makes them far more complex. But that's the real answer. But I suppose to keep it a bit more concise, there are an infinitely increasing amount of artificial intelligence initiatives that will likely continuously sound more and more alike as these trends and themes go. And each one of them has the potential to add value in its own merits. And when you look at initiatives that are from organizations that have more resources, generally speaking, you would think that they have the potential to deliver more. Now, that's certainly not, completely indicative of performance, but it is probably a good sign. So if this is something comparable to IOTA, I'm not sure. Again, I don't know this. It sounds like maybe from this comment, not the case, but it could be a pretty big initiative. As far as what we're doing and how it relates, I think the easiest way to look at one of the things that kind of makes us unique is, let me show you. Am I able to screen share?
Yeah, you just present it, and then as soon as it's on there, I just add to the screen.
Okay.
As Evan's pulling it up, I'm just gonna welcome some of you guys, especially this guy, Michael Cornwell, Elon Muff in the house. Good to see you, sir. No, this is not XCN, because XCN is ONYX. This is ONIX with Aeonix, so they're not related. But XCN is a good project. All right, so you got that on the screen. Let's go ahead and add that.
All right.
And there you go.
My eyes here. Are we up?
We are up.
Okay. So I want to showcase to you a demonstration of one of the things that makes us unique. Not exclusively so, but something that's pretty exciting. So I'm going to go ahead and open up the Aeonix Explorer here. And this is just the initial interface we have. I know it's quite simple. There's many changes coming, but I want to demonstrate the functionality here. If you want to go try to find a crypto token, what are you going to do? You're going to go to CoinMarketCap or CoinGecko, most likely, or one of the other tools, and you're going to try to search for it. And if it's a token that already exists, you can probably find it fairly easily. But what if you're trying to find something that you don't know what it is? What if you're trying to find a token that you've never seen before? Like you're trying to actually do your own research, not just follow information that you heard from other people. Well,
yeah,
you can
like Maximus Crypto, right?
Well, no,
so all the speculative stuff. I'm just being hard on myself.
No. Anyway. I want to differentiate like when you look at someone who consistently produces content and encourages people to do their own research and joins people on an evaluation process, there's a very big difference between that and just blindly following what people say is the next thing to do. But just for this example, Max, it sounds like you're a gamer. I've been a gamer my whole life too. I am also very excited about this intersection of crypto and gaming and artificial intelligence. So let's say you wanted to try to find a project that was doing something with AI gaming. Well, let's go and we'll just try a direct search first. I'm going to type in AI gaming. And what I have here just initially is two different tokens that have no volume and market caps to suggest there's no activity whatsoever. And then below this, I have more of the same of these types of tokens. Notice these are pump fund tokens, so they're even less reputable for maybe something long term that we're looking for. And none of this represents the ethos of what crypto gaming or AI gaming could be. And remarkably, this direct search navigation, if I were to put my money into any of these, I would almost certainly lose it. These are pretty clear honeypots in many different ways. And in fact, a lot of these have already rugged. Look at that. That's rugged. That's rugged. That's probably rugged too. And that's just a couple trades that went in afterward, or someone else had a couple dollars in the pool that wasn't obviously taken out. But this is not even remotely useful. And well, yes, I could go into predefined indexes. I will now be subject to bias. And do I want to try to find tokens that have paid for a marketing position? Do I want to try to find tokens that have been aggregated by people who are telling me what I should buy based off of their own financial alignment? Or am I trying to actually identify what I was looking for in the first place? This is where Aeonix, again, just one function comes in. So when we look at the Aeonix platform, essentially the primary public-facing product of Aeonix is the Aeonix Explorer. And essentially, it's a crypto-powered Web3 browser that allows you to navigate all of crypto and interact with decentralized applications using just natural language. And while we haven't released the full conversational interface yet, I do want to demonstrate our relational engine. So we're going to go in here, and I'm going to search up the same thing, AI gaming. And what you're going to see here is Aeonix actually has a very unique search engine. It does not look for keyword association. It's not just pulling up the first token that has AI gaming in it. What it's doing is it's actually searching for the context of the words that I searched. So it's looking at what does AI gaming mean, and then it's looking at how that relates to the actual context of these different tokens. So when you look at the results it's giving you, it's actually giving you, look at this. So first off, none of this says anything about AI gaming. That wasn't the type of result we were pulling initially. When I look at this, I can see it's immediately a Web3 AI gaming platform. And again, this is just an early iteration. It will only continue to improve. But what you're seeing here, without any filtering whatsoever, is the actual result of what I was trying to search for. And this relational search engine is actually the foundation of our entire crypto explorer. So everything you do is fundamentally searching actual context, not just its most associated keyword. And yeah, we can dive into all the settings and filters and parameters and events and signals, but just showing you an example, this is showing you what you were looking for with the actual information that you gave it, not what we recommend you do, not what somebody paid us to have in our search results, or not what is most directly aligned to the literal characters you submitted, but the actual result that you were seeking. And when we zoom out and we look at how the world is continuously moving into this space where increasingly people are using these types of essentially machine-based shortcuts to either access information, to identify key pieces of actionable events, to be able to browse the internet. Really, everything is kind of filtered by these different tools. And if you have tools that are not just giving you the information you're looking for, if they're acting on a bias, whether it's financial, whether it is political bias or anything else, you're not getting what you are trying to use in the first place. So just something simple that I wanted to highlight here.
Well, I think a great analogy is Ripple, the internet of value, Quant, the internet of trust, and Aeonix, the tokenization of truth, the internet of truth. Because how many people have probably done what you're literally mentioning? They're of course going to go to coinmarketcap.com. They're of course going to go to, CoinGecko's. Those are two of the standout platforms to go to. Those are like onboarding, those are the main two platforms. I don't know, maybe there's a third one. Some people could say Dex tools or whatever. I mean, but I'm looking at it from the basic person that just entered, what behind the ears from just got off the boat of Robinhood. They don't know jack diddly squat, right? They're going to go to CoinMarketCap, just like you mentioned. They're going to probably, they probably wouldn't go to that part where they're looking that up, but at some point maybe they would. I mean, if there's other gamers out there, which there's a lot, they're going to look at perspective well, I'm kind of into crypto right now. And all right, I heard about CoinMarketCap. Well, I'll just do a search. And they do that search and they see that's a bunch of crap. So I'm very impressed with this already. Not just because I'm a gamer like yourself, but I look at even for me as Maximus of Maximus Crypto for my research, this helps narrow down so many things, and not just gaming, right? We could apply this to so many other different things. I mean, come on, we talk about real world asset tokenization. We could talk about DPIN projects. I mean, I cover Jasmine, AI times DPIN. All right, now I want something that's non-biased about that. I could talk about property, real estate. Obviously, we just mentioned Relio. Again, that's more that real estate stuff. Maybe I just want to narrow it down where I'm like, I want to find more of those type of projects, but maybe something that has under a billion coins or a billion tokens. To me, this just on the surface, it would be a very useful tool, even for somebody like myself, let alone people that are out there that just, as you mentioned, they don't want that biasness. And truth should be just that. It shouldn't have any biasness. And that's something I wanted to bring up to your attention, Evan. We talked about this before, I think roughly a few days ago or a week ago on our Discord conversation. But um, I was going to ask you, but you already asked the question, would this have a sense of biasness? Because when we talk about AIs, like Gemini AI, that's owned by Google. Well, say what you want, there's a sense of biasness there. If you were to ask it political questions, it wouldn't even want to touch it. Or they give you, a sense of biasness. Microsoft with Copilot does that as well. Elon Musk with Grok, he'll claim that there is no biasness there, but to a sense there is, So you get where I'm going with this? It's like
Yeah.
truth in itself should not have any biasness. And if we're going to reference blockchain and DLT, for a lot of us, we're into blockchain and DLT, especially for the future. Like I truly believe 100%, Evan, that if it's not by the next midterm elections here in the United States, because I know that you're also here in the United States, then it can't be any later than 2028 election. Just my opinion, and people could disagree with this, where forget this whole thing of pointing your finger like, Republicans did collusion with Russia, or Democrats pointing the fingers at the Republicans, vice versa. We could just be like, forget all that freaking political nonsense. We'll just verify it on blockchain. So what you guys are doing here with this whole thing of truth, people ask, what's the value? What makes it unique? Come on. If you haven't been paying attention, that is unique. And that has value in a very limited supply. These are all very appealing things to me.
It's a very complicated and nuanced question to dive into, because I think it's initially really easy to reduce it and say, all these guys are bad because we have these examples. Like obviously there's some pretty crazy public examples of AI just doing wild stuff it's not supposed to do. But at the end of the day, anything that is created by a human will inevitably have some form of bias, whether it's intentional or unintentional. The question is not how do we remove bias? It's rather how do we become aware of our own bias and then work to ensure that we have systems and processes and checks and balances that can make things as fair and as objective as possible. So for us, now this isn't us saying we have intentional bias, it's just being aware of being human. But the first step for us is, okay, well, if we want to create a process that allows an individual to audit what truth is, then that means that we have to create some type of a framework that allows you to actually understand how an AI made a decision. So it's not just information in, information out, and just blindly trusting that that's the right answer. And it's also not just, oh, hey, where did that come from? It's very specifically, what was your decision-making process? What pieces of information did you use and why? And that hackathon bill that we just looked at, it actually uses decentralized identifiers, verified credentials, and DID linked resources to create essentially a transparent framework for AI agents. So not only can you see within the agent itself, like its metadata, its training materials, its sources, everything it's connected to, the version of the application, the deployer, and everything else, but you can then also see, and again, I can show you this live, with each search result you look up. So if I were to click on I should have demonstrated this too. If you were to click on this, and perhaps I'll just go through it right now as well.
Yeah, by all means, do so. Yeah. And I'm willing to go a little bit longer because I'll be honest, I find this pretty impressive. So I'm learning something too. So hats off to you, man.
Well, I know we are definitely over on time, so I appreciate you all hanging in there with us. Within the Aeonix,
let me add that real quick. There we go.
What we did is actually right now, every new account that connects to the application is automatically going to receive $10 in free credits if you connect within the next 24 hours. And that's going to give you these universal compute credits so you can actually utilize the application and try these things that I'm talking about. But again, within any search result, I can pull up the references, and then I can actually see the specific information that was used for the correlation score. And then if I were to verify my account by connecting my social media, I could actually up and down vote the accuracy of this, which is where you can then participate in these gamified channels. And I would submit that, and then that would actually go toward achievements where I can earn different achievements for either participating in and training the AI, for using the system, or any other type of experiential transaction on the platform. And those achievements are tied to different rewards. They're tied to credits. They're tied to our digital asset series, and they're tied to ONIX tokens, as well as a few more things that we've got saved. But yeah, just an example of, if you want to understand, how can I believe this? How can I know this is real? Well, I first need to understand where the search result came from. And then I need to be able to look at the actual agent itself. So then I can look up the metadata of the actual agent that I'm using. And I can see that, hey, this is an application that came from Dragon Labs. It uses their organizational decentralized identifier. Here's the DID linked resources that show you exactly all these different individual pieces of metadata for this agentic platform right here. And those, again, are what we believe to be foundational in starting to create AI systems that are not only trustworthy, but verifiable. So we're not blindly saying, hey, these companies are just going to make systems that are going to be better and you can trust them. Saying, hey, let's figure out a way to do this better, and then do it in such a way to where you can also agree with how we came to this decision.
The thing that's cool here, Evan, is that demo you showed. So for example, we talk about how Aeonix is basically like part of the QNT community ecosystem, if that's a title that we even want to state that it is. Well, again, look back at Quant authorize, talking about auditing. What you guys got there in your demo is you're doing just that. You're running like an audit through all this and seeing if what's legit and what isn't, without again that biasness. So that's pretty impressive, at least in my book. We want to get into just a little bit more about this. There's at least a couple more highlights I want to get into before we get towards the end of this. I do want to recognize a few more comments. And again, this will be the final disclaimer about the Decent Wallet giveaway. My God, we only have one person. I don't even have to spin this because the person would win. V would have a 100% chance of winning a Decent Wallet. But what I was going to state is, simply share this show and just type into the comments. How hard is it to type in the comments? Shared. I am trusting you guys will do this, but at least share the program on X, or just type in shared. Again, rule of thumb, you got to be a member of this channel for at least 1 year. I don't want where it's just one person just came into random person. Yeah, oh cool, I just found this random thing, want some. No, I'm trying to recognize some of the OGs. So check that out. And how cool is it that Evan mentioned the whole thing of what was it, 24 or 48 hours? I can't remember, about on your platform that literally a giveaway if they use your platform.
Yeah, it's a 100% giveaway. Everybody wins. All you have to do is go connect your wallet right now to the application. That's app.aeonix.network. I'm sure there'll be links somewhere in the resources for this episode. There's no gas needed either. This is all actually using our compute system. So you can claim this and connect to the system and get the credits and use the application with any Ethereum wallet, no gas needed.
Very cool. Okay. So we're going to ask a few more questions, and then after that, we're probably going to cut it off on that, because again, I want to respect Evan's time, your time, my time, everybody's time. So one thing I will ask, I don't know if it's too early to ask this, but who is the competition for you guys?
It would be based on how you define the project, because ONIX is a token, has representation within the Aeonix platform as the universal platform token, but it also has representation within the Dragon ecosystem as essentially this alignment vehicle that allows people that don't know each other, that have never met each other, and that have no reason to trust each other, to be able to work together on shared goals. And that's, kind of the ethos of what decentralized ecosystems can be. So if you were to look at the novel approach in our token economics framework applied within these kind of like self-sustainable AI networks, I haven't seen anybody else who's approached it like we have. But if we were to reduce this and just look more maybe locally at Aeonix, I think there's a lot of projects right now that are going after similar concepts. Again, you're going to hear a lot of similar ideas, but it's really now we're getting to the place where it's not just about white papers. It's not just about like vision casting. It's about actually producing applications and putting them into production and evaluating the efficacy against other options. So I wouldn't even say that competition is the right way to look at things as much as it's just the landscape for what people are doing. And then competition can be, instead of having people try to define what token is maybe better or worse, or A, B, or C, it's, hey, what of all of these available solutions, what actually works the best and why? What has the best results? Where do you see actions that align to communication, not just communication that projects something? We are in a world where anybody can sound like anything and share it with anybody. So it's no longer about what you say. It's no longer about maybe even what you necessarily know. We're in a world now where it's only about results. So rather than me try to sit here and give you all the reasons why you should or should not be a part of our community, or why one thing is better or worse than the other, I would just encourage you to make the decisions for yourself and follow along. You don't even have to buy the token. You don't even have to try the platform. Maybe it'll be harder for you to make that evaluation if you don't try the products, but follow along and come to these decisions for yourself and like encourage and facilitate discussions. So I don't have an answer for that, but that's what I'll tell you.
You know what? That's a fair answer. I like that. All right, I'm gonna go further down. I think he basically touched base. So that also answers the other question, but that's fine. We did talk about what really made it unique. If you guys have been following along, okay. Let's see here.
It's I can make it even simpler because those two questions are actually pretty aligned. What makes it
this
unique?
one? Unique?
Yeah,
Okay,
and then the one before, what was that again?
Like serious competition.
Yeah. So if you look at the landscape for AI applications right now, whether you are looking at the legacy tech space or this hybrid blockchain AI space, almost every single application uses ChatGPT. And nearly all agentic applications use MCP. These are two things that we do not utilize in our architecture right now. And without taking the time to dive into a technical discussion on why and how and what this looks like, which we can get to in the future, I would say the differentiators in our technical architecture result in the actual practical differences that you see with our token, than you see with our technology. So this is, maybe I'm going to speculate a bit here, but this is perhaps why someone like Gilbert could see Qbot and be excited about it versus maybe looking at something that's like just a chat GPT prompt on, So again, I don't want to facilitate any type of negativity. Rather, just be honest about how things are and let people make their own decisions.
For me personally, I think the reason why he highlights you guys is not just recognizing, hey, these guys are part of the Quant community, but I think he sees kind of like what we were just talking about and other people were talking about is Quant is doing what is referred to as the internet of trust. So trust and truth, I mean, they go hand in hand. He realizes his original vision. Yeah, he's focused on the institutions and awesome, but he's never going to forget like the core of who he is. And he never, technically speaking, he didn't have to say anything about you guys, but he did. He did, and man, I mean, I'd be blasting that everywhere. And which, of course, you guys have your right to do it. We did kind of touch basis on this too, right? Would you agree?
Yeah, trustworthy, verifiable, and then a unique privacy-preserving architecture for greater degrees of accuracy. I mean, I can even elaborate maybe a bit more. The landscape right now at a competitive level is roughly 60% accuracy in agentic frameworks. This is just from evaluations I've seen and demonstrations that have been shared in some of these open communities. What we're seeing with our frameworks, and again, Qbot's a great example, is 99+% efficacy. So if you wanted to quantify it, that's perhaps where I'd start.
You want to quantify it.
Oh, I mean, if you've used Qbot, we're no stranger to quant puns.
Yeah, that's funny. Well, I'm not any stranger to it either. Anyway, um, gotta love me. We gotta love your questions. He says, so how do you sell your product against everything else out? Do you want to answer that?
Yeah, it's actually it's a very easy question to answer because our target market is not crypto. Our business model as a whole is as a technology company producing these AI systems for small to medium enterprise. So we build trustworthy and verifiable AI systems like chatbots and workflow automation systems for different types of private businesses. And the reason why we're seeing the reception we are is because they're just more accurate. They're trustworthy. You can actually use them in a business application with sensitive data or where you have an environment that needs a certain degree of consistency and response or that needs parameters on what you can and can't do. These things don't matter that much to the average maybe retail crypto user, but if you're a business owner and you're evaluating the risk of implementing some type of autonomous system that has insight into your organization and that handles customer data and then maybe connects to payments, there is no way on earth you could ever trust systems that aren't trustworthy, reliable, transparent, and verifiable. Like it is what it is. So we sell our product privately. We operate exclusively based off of revenue through private builds. There are no revenue lines that feed the company based off of the token. The token exists exclusively to fuel the public side of development and the alignment of the network energy behind that. So everything that comes out into the public side that you see now with the Aeonix Explorer, that you'll see over the coming 3, 6, 9, 12 months of releases, this is a result of our like staged product developments over this kind of tiered system. So we don't really need to focus on selling anything to Web3 as much as we focus on just operating our organization and then continuously producing generally either free or aligned and accessible products for people to use. That's why Qbot's free. That's why many of our other products that are going to be coming out are going to be completely free too.
Very cool. I just want to state that I really appreciate you guys tuning in for this type of coverage that we have for you guys this evening. It's not something typical I do. I can't remember the last time I had actually done it at AMA. It might have been a few years ago. So just to thank you guys. We got 330 here on both YouTube and X. Pretty decent crowd. Nice to get some exposure for this project. And just another disclaimer, I'm not paid by these guys, but I always will support the Q&T community, and that's one of the main things that I wanted to highlight with you guys because they're definitely part of, this is a community project. This might be the comment of the day. In fact, let me know if you want an entry into the Decent Wallet giveaway. Let me know if you have a Decent Wallet, SHX42QNT. To me, this wins all the comments. I'm just being honest. I thought this was impressive. Doing what Google did in 1998, searching the content, not meta tags. Yes, the way I look at it, if you look at Google back in the day, right, when they first were coming up, there was, I remember those days. This tells how old I am. There's some of you guys are older than me, right? I'm 44. I don't care, I'll be transparent. But I do remember using, like, for example, Windows 95, getting on the internet, and you didn't have that standard. You know how with Quant, Evan, we're always talking about standards, ISO TC 307, ISO 222. Nobody says, oh, search that on the internet. It's just a standard just to say, Google that, or, you're a gamer, Google it, noob, right? Like somebody asks you a question, oh no, hold on, let me Google that for you. Like, really, you can't Google that yourself? So that's a standard in itself. But before all that, we had Ask Jeeves, we had Yahoo, there was a whole bunch of search engines. So I do like this statement because the way I look at it is, yes, you guys are doing that. You guys are running your own audit system, call it like the QNT off, your version of Quant authorized, right? That is impressive, and you're just trying to get right to the truth. Like, forget all the fluff, forget all that other stuff, forget what ranks, technically first, or what companies, like you pointed out, paid off the devs for they can rank it up higher. Forget all that. We just want the darn truth. I wish if this wasn't copyright, we would have Jack Nicholson was it A Few Good Men, right? I want the truth. You can't handle the truth. Maybe that's your new unofficial commercial moving forward, right? But that's a good comment. Anyway, we're gonna get further into it. I just want to point that out. Um, Victory VCs, love it, love it, love it. Seems simplistic enough to operate. Cool. Gotta Love Me says, I'm gonna be honest, I use ChatGPT. That's okay. How does your company hope to seek financial besides token value? That's a fair question. You want to answer that?
Yeah. Again, it's pretty exciting because there's not necessarily a question of speculation, because we're not focusing on trying to branch into like crypto markets and capture product market value from the crypto market. It's really just a question of like, what is your business model, like who your customer base is, and then your traditional questions in evaluating and measuring like revenue and growth. And for us, again, really simple. We build private and secure AI systems for small business. And we're working toward making that as easy as essentially like a Lego kit, where in the same way you can use like Google Notebook LLM, which is kind of similar to one of our products that we're working on. You can go in and anyone can very easily create their own instance of an Aeonix chatbot, connect different agent functionalities, and then deploy it on their website or deploy it in a container that we run.
Very cool.
But again, there's a couple variables we have to address here. Like there's the company and there's the public side, and then there is this broader connection of what the tokenized network allows you to do and how you can get greater amounts of people to work together. So the fact that you can create, like, what does tokenized trust mean? Well, you can create a cryptographic controlled statement that allows people to work together and allows people, I mean, you could almost think of it like a job. Imagine you had a smart contract that was like a blank template for a job. And every single person in the world, no matter what their background is or their beliefs or their opinions or their education, they all are going to follow it because it's designed off of the one thing that everybody agrees upon. A dollar is a dollar. And if you can get access to arbitrage, if you can have some type of incentive that makes sense for the proposition that you're evaluating, you're far more likely to do that. I mean, it's the same systemic reason as to why people argue online about which cash tag token is better than the other. Like it's never going to change because you are fundamentally incentivized to disagree or to convince someone. I'm like, it's the same concept. So what we've done is essentially broken down how exactly crypto price works and developed a token that can scale to as many people as possible to allow them to work together, again, from governance, from decision making, from AI training, to form this decentralized network of human intelligence that continuously improves with sustainable revenue generated from its own flywheel. And again, we have a lot of stuff we can share on this later. We have a whole series we'll go into, but that's just kind of the high level.
Yeah, and just a disclaimer to you, Evan. Hey, Evan, look at me for a second. This is no one and done with you, brother. I really mean that. I'm very impressed with this, and I look forward to having you on again at some point, or just doing a recorded video or any of that. Um, I think there's something here with this, and it's always good to get into some of these low market cap, as you guys would say, gems. I think you guys got a lot of potential here. Again, it's not financial advice ever. We're just sharing this. You guys could choose to do what you want. Um, and we're just trying to provide a different element to the community and share some things, which is cool. I'll read maybe 2 or 3 more comments, and then of course we'll announce who won on the giveaway. I do like SHX42QNT. You got some great comments tonight, sir. You and Love Me, right? Is there is there an ability to apply filters to the search? That is a good question. So I actually want to know that.
Yes. So yes, there are quite a lot of filters that exist right now. You can search between different blockchains. You can set the parameters for the valuation and a couple other factors. But as far as what is functionally there, it's limitless, like from an infrastructure perspective. So if you look kind of behind the scenes at some of the products we're building privately and how they're going to translate into public releases in the future, pretty much any set of conditional events you can think of, prerequisites or filters or variables you can input. So you will have the ability, and again, in an autonomous sense, to identify tokens, to track them in different indexes and smart baskets, and to actually trade them autonomously. So let's say, 4 6 months from now, when the public version is out, you'll be able to say something like, okay, well, let's say Elon Musk just posted about how he thinks AI gaming is going to be the next big thing for 2026. And then, as soon as he posts that, now all of a sudden, hashtag AI gaming is the hottest thing ever. And everyone's trying to figure out, what AI gaming token should I buy? Well, you can either follow the trend in noise, which can work until it doesn't, or you can use a tool like this and you can actually create an index and distribute your investment based off the actual quantified applications of what it was supposed to be in the first place. So instead of trying to say, like, arbitrarily, I'm going to go put $100 into token A because I saw it on X and that guy has 150,000 followers and he wears a suit, so I think it's a good idea. What you could instead do is, hey, I'm going to take that $100 and I'm actually going to have it sitting on an event that is waiting for these types of things. And when it sees that conditional like filters, it will go ahead and then initiate your correlation search to generate your index, and then trade it based off of the conditions you've set, the risk weighting you have, any other variables you want to use. So what you're seeing right now is just the very beginning of where this tool is going to go. And as we look forward to about a year from now, that actually will extend out into different decentralized applications. So in the same way that you can use a crypto wallet to browse all these different decentralized applications, you can start from one singular multi-agent dashboard and just tell it what you want and have all of these actions just happen on the back end.
That's gonna. Thank you for answering that. I do want to get to this comment because I was thinking about this earlier. Okay, so Victory V says, I go to CoinMarketCap, but Aeonix would help me search easily for what I need. Well, think about this. Victory V is not the only person that feels this way. I want the truth. You can't handle the truth. I'm kidding. When searching for specific needs, love it. So when you talk about products, Evan, maybe you're already ahead of us. I'm sure you are. I look at it from this perspective. Would it be a plugin as a product which would have integration, currently speaking, or in the future, for CMC CoinMarketCap, where you could take this, plug it into like CoinMarketCap, because most people are still familiar with that, and then use that as a form of integration? Because here's why, and I meant to share this earlier. Let's pull this up on screen. So basically, yeah, Quant. I mean, I have a membership, of course, to Pipe Dream, right? I'm still working on my own particular bot. The way I look at it is, what do you want to automate with Overledger? Well, it's kind of like, well, what do you want to, integrate with, for example, Aeonix? You guys are part of the mix of AI and AI agents and so on. So, I don't know, maybe I do something on my own in regard to CMC. I mean, I doubt it, but I mean, to me, that would be, I don't have to tell you that would be a great product. But do you guys have anything potentially in your pipeline without disclosing too much due to maybe NDAs or whatever? Or is it too early to mention some of these things? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, CMC, whether we like it or not, is like the first platform people go to that are fresh off the boat of Robinhood. You know what I mean?
Yeah. What you're describing is both technically possible and logical from a lot of perspectives. However, in practice, when you look at companies as they get bigger, it's not always necessarily about what is the best tool that I should apply to my business. It gets more complicated because you have all these different vested interests. You could have, stakeholders that are also aligned with other brands that already have maybe agreements signed with another company. And when you're looking at these, honestly, giants of this industry, it's probably not super practical to think that something like us would be adopted, because it doesn't, well, it can benefit the platform. It would also inherently highlight its opportunities, which would
You know
be
what? I get it now. I do get it now. It's kind of like we just talked about Google, right? It'd be like you're trying to integrate with Google's search engine, but that's already a centralized, biased search engine. You don't need to do that. You're separating yourself from something like that because you're creating, again, truth, the non-biasness sense of it, you know. So
The
I get
goal
it
is
a
an
little bit more.
access
Yeah.
point. We have our own um, coin market cap. Essentially, we index over 84,000 different crypto tokens across every single blockchain in the world that has any even remote adoption. And then we apply a series of different conditional filters and things that have to be met. So something else we actually didn't highlight on within our search engine, we also use a function that we call verified search. And if you notice, when we went to CoinMarketCap and we searched up like how to identify like a token, we tried to find that AI gaming token. We got honeypots. We got tokens that had literally been rugged already. What we actually do is we automatically apply a filter that searches on chain in the contract itself for verified social information and only shows you tokens that have verified their socials, because almost no scam project will have the ability to do something like that. And automatically, that's going to reduce like 90+% of the scam and the honeypot projects you would normally see in a search function. So like there's a number of different things that go into our entire database for indexing crypto. So if we were to apply it to a bigger system, it's tough because then you almost have competing interests. Whereas if we have control from an access point perspective, we can give people a portal based off of our vision, essentially.
No doubt. Look, there's a few more questions. I mean, are you cool if we just still go a little bit more?
I'm ready to go. I
Okay.
appreciate you having me on here, and I know we're a bit over on time, so it's up to you.
No, I'm down for it. So, guys, hopefully you enjoy this. We're going a little bit longer. It's been a long day for me, especially with all the other coverage. But you know, it is what it is. I brought it on myself, and that's cool. I do want to jump into this for a brief moment. So we didn't have a chance to talk about, for example, Dora and Dora hacks. I wanted to get more into this because even on the Patreon side of things, like we've been talking more about Dora. You know, there's a guy here. I don't know if he still listens. Cool Cat Crypto. I watched the interview. It was Siggy Oscarson and his brother over at BSV, and they were talking specifically about Dora. Like, there's a lot of mention this year about Dora. And then I see you guys have this, I guess you could say, you know, this key thing, Aeonix network, on this page for Dora hacks. And like it says, full stack developer, AI researcher, Aeonix network, building a suite of Web3 AI agents. Again, we were talking about some of this earlier, especially with this, with, you know, potentially like, you know, would it be something like what Overledger's, you know, doing with 2,500 other apps in seconds? Again, deployment of AI agents. So jumping back to this, um, conversational interface, create and deploy automated functions across dApps with verified data and portable credentials. So this Biddle uh, hackathon, excuse me, happened last May, and a lot of people have been showcasing it. I mean, obviously, I guess also Check has been doing it as well. Do you want to elaborate a little bit more on this before we get, get into some of the other questions and whatnot?
Yeah, so this is actually, it ties into kind of where we began today with the report that came from Checked and Sprite Plus. So those two organizations actually sponsored, along with, I believe it was Verita, they sponsored what was known as the Verifiable AI Hackathon. It's a hackathon hosted on Dora Hacks, which is a hackathon platform. And essentially, it was aimed at encouraging people to create AI agent applications that either solved existing problems where transparency and trust was needed, or showcased how these SSI frameworks and principles can create trust and transparency in an agentic system. And so we actually submitted 4 different builds for this. If you scroll up a little bit, you can expand the build section there, and you'll see the 4 different things we submitted. And it was within the evaluation paper earlier shared that 2 of these builds were referenced and then scored in their rubric. But they're essentially just modular components of our privacy architecture. And you can actually, each one is quite extensive. It has full technical documentation, all the codes in there. There's a tutorial, and there's even like long form articles to support it in the YouTube video. So anything that you want to learn on those systems is available.
I'm sure there's a lot to get into here, but yeah, you guys see some of this. You know, again, there's a lot. So interesting to see some of it. And of course, you guys are all welcome to look more into it. I'll drop in the comments if you know, there's probably only going to be like a couple nerds that want to nerd it out. If you want to nerd it out, there it is in the comments. Look into it more if you choose to do so. Um, this, of course, was a little bit more from Aeonix about the whole thing of the May 12th. May 12th was my birthday, right? So verifiable AI hackathon build, unified verifiable identity layer for reputation and achievement in the Aeonix ecosystem. Again, the highlight you saw from Checked, you know, decentralized identifier unifies their, you know, that unifies their ecosystem interactions under a privacy preserving framework. Do you want to talk about this for a brief moment? Maybe you do, maybe you don't.
Yeah, definitely. So this is just kind of a simple technical architecture of what it actually means to have a decentralized identity integrated into the platform. So basically, you know, your first interaction as a user is you have a wallet, and through a self-custodied wallet that you have the keys over, it essentially gives you a way to interact with things that you and you alone control. So it is this extension of your identity. Now, it's also public. It shows your assets, your holdings, anything that it's connected to, and all that on-chain information, but it is something that you uniquely hold. So when you connect to the Aeonix platform, you access it through your wallet. But then to actually create the container that records your progress, your achievements, your reputation, and everything else, you actually create what's called a decentralized identifier, or a DID. And this is essentially like a completely unique and secure way to reference something that can house different pieces of information that can be proven to be true based off of their cryptographic principles. And what it translates to is we get this portable container in the same way that you have a wallet. Well, you also essentially have an ID wallet, a digital identity wallet with Aeonix. And right now it's just tied into the keys of your blockchain wallet. So it's essentially, it's owned by the wallet you connected to in the first place. But we're actually going to allow you to export that later on in the future. So you can take your identity wallet and you can connect it to a different blockchain wallet or any other type of system. But this creates our privacy preserving container where you can then start to track what types of actions has this user taken, what types of contributions have they given, how do they have rights and opportunities within the ecosystem, what can they access, what types of permissions do they have, and then from a peer-to-peer side, how do you have a leaderboard and compare the scores of things, especially if they're based in something that is connected to a token or any type of medium of exchange, without doxing someone. I mean, it's like you can have NFTs of things, but you can then also immediately see the wallet behind it. So this creates that privacy preserving layer. So you can then have this loop of issuing credentials and recording reputation and having any type of infinitely scalable reputation.
Very good. Thanks for that breakdown. There's just, I think, a couple more things I was going to share real quick. I guess we'll just leave this on the screen for a brief moment. So, again, if you guys are interested in getting this, let's full screen this for a bit. You can get it through, like if you're wondering what wallet to use a Trust Wallet. Trust Wallet has a DEX that's built into it, which is PancakeSwap. From there, make sure you have some BNB. In this case, wrap BNB will be the pairing that you're going to use to get yourself ONIX. This is not a meme token. Again, in a very, very limited supply. We're talking about something that is part of, I guess you could say unofficially, the QNT community ecosystem, right? But, Gilbert Verdian did highlight this earlier, just in case you missed it earlier. And just connecting, Aeonix thanks Gilbert Verdin. We believe trustworthy, verifiable AI systems are foundational for practical AI apps. It's honored to have your approval. July 10th, Gilbert Verdin, right there. Boom. What do you see? In today's world of AI, really liking Qbot. Well done, community. He recognizes the community. This is such an honor, as posted from Aeonix, to have him have his approval. So that's really awesome. And again, just like QNT, very limited supply. It makes sense that something that's connected with the QNT community would have a limited supply, right? You learn from the best, and as you see here, you know, Evan, aka Hungarian Horntail from Dragon Labs, literally verified that the max there ever will be is 47 million. So a lot of times when we go to the CMC and it says, for example, max supply and it doesn't list it, only shows total. You did hear it from the horse's mouth, Evan. He did state that max would be 47 million tokens, so that's very significant. And not many holders, so a lot of you guys want some of those things where you're at the floor. Look into it. Again, not financial advice. Do as you please. If you get into it, great. If you don't, hey, no problem. I mean, I'm not losing sleep over it. But check it out if you choose to do so. So there's that. And I think, if anything, here's his X. If you want to follow Evan, he's Hungarian Horntail, and he can be followed over at 3toe Sloth 1. And yeah, we'll just leave that up there for a brief bit. I think we'll read the last bit of comments, and then after that, we're definitely going to have to wrap this up because we went a little bit too extended. But that's cool. I'm sure you're not complaining, right, Evan? So
I'm happy to be here. This has been 5 years in the making of doing this full time, of researching crypto, of trying to build applications, of trying to build things that truly provide value. And it's been such a long journey to get here. So for one, being able to share it all is really exciting. But honestly, bigger than that, being able to share it with a community that actually appreciates the value of trying to find opportunity and genuinely wants to participate in these decentralized ecosystems, not just chase the next hottest thing. That's exactly what we want. So if any of this resonates with you, I would encourage you just to join our community. You don't have to buy the token, don't have to use the app. I prefer you did, so you could tell us about it, but just get involved, be a part of the process, and give us feedback.
Evan, I want you to know I can see your passion, and I think a lot of people do as well. And that's awesome. It's kudos to you. So boom, there you go. Let's see here. I do want to welcome this guy because I met you in person, and when I went to Tennessee, I did see Greg Ballou. RAP will fix. But good to see you, Greg. Really am honored to have you here. Greg, there's the email. Please give me email over there. That's a secondary email for all the spammers. They're like, oh, I got your email. Secondary email. Huh. What do you think of that? Anyway, Gotta Love Me. How does it compare to Husky AI? I don't know. I mean, I don't even know what Husky AI is, to be honest. I don't know everything. Maybe some of you guys are like, oh, how dare you not know what Husky AI? It just tells you that I don't know everything either. Do you know about Husky AI? If so, news to me. What is Husky AI?
I'm not familiar with this initiative, but if it's contextually related, we could dive into some of the variables there. Again, it comes back to this topic of rhetoric. Right now, it is easier than ever for anybody in the world to produce something and have them sound like an expert. I mean, anybody can sound like a PhD level student simply by asking to be converted to sounding like a PhD level student. So when you have these systems that are, for one, sharing information, and they're learning off of each other, it is very inevitable that you're going to end up with things just continuously starting to sound more and more alike. So when you're trying to compare things based off of writing or based off of white papers or based off of like a vision projection, it will become increasingly challenging to do so because it's all going to kind of sound the same. People are mostly using the same terminologies. Trends are going to influence what types of topics and weight gets added in different sections. Obviously, right now we're entering into this, quote unquote, privacy narrative, if you will, where the whole world is waking up to realize that the internet is not even remotely trustworthy, has been for a while. It is an increasingly hostile place to humans. And there is a requirement, not a need, but a requirement to establish trust, transparency, and truth on the internet. So a lot of people see that. And if there's similarities within the things that they're saying or the way their designs are written, yeah, that makes sense. To truly evaluate and contrast and compare, I would look at what's in production and compare the results, test the applications. I think you might be muted there, Max.
I am. Thank you. Clicked on the wrong button. Good thing you're here, because I would have spoke for how long and not discovered it. Anyway. All right. You did bring up the white paper. I have to bring this up. When is your white paper going to be done, released, and so on? Had to ask it. This is how early you guys basically are, if you're wondering how early this is. So, you want to answer that?
That's a good question. This month.
Okay.
If you want to learn about Aeonix now, we have limited information available at aeonix.network/info. Now, it's just high-level information, just some basic stuff, and honestly, some of it is a little bit outdated at this stage, but that is the most comprehensive repository of project documentation, knowing that, again, later this month, we are going to release a full overhaul, both of our reference materials, as well as releasing the white paper.
Hey, man. Direct answers. I love it. All right. Wow, this is massive. Well, thank you. Kat, welcome back. Let's see here. So you do want, I don't know if you want an Aeonix, I'm assuming that you were also mentioned in, for the giveaway, so that's fine. Okay, so you are entered on that. Let me just see it. So far, we only have 3 people. I got V, GS, and Gotta Love Me for the Decent Wallet giveaway. We'll do that towards the end. Rory says he reposted on stream, so I'm gonna enter you too. Rory, go ahead.
Let's make this a little bit more exciting. We're going to add $200 of Aeonix compute credits to the winner. So whoever's selected, all you have to do is just create an account on Aeonix, and we'll need either your address you connected, or you can just set a username. Let us know, and then we'll add $200 of compute credits to whichever person wins from the stream.
My goodness. So somebody's going to win a Decent Wallet and $200 worth of Aeonix?
So $200 of compute credits. They're not ONIX tokens. You convert ONIX tokens into compute credits, and those are the credits you use to access the application. However, it's not just about accessing the applications. The credits themselves are actually a universal platform fuel. So you can use it for upgrading your account. You can use it for purchasing digital assets and NFTs that give your account different perks and benefits, and other types of functions that we'll be adding over time. So even if you're not too interested in using Aeonix, winning some extra credits can benefit you in other ways too.
That sounds pretty sweet. And if they still have some trouble with it, they can reach out to you on Hungarian Horntail, his X, right? I'm not trying to punt it, but in a way I kind of am. Anyway, here is his X. Let's pull this up. So there's his X, and they can reach out to you, right? Fair enough.
Absolutely. And then of course our, official channels for Aeonix, Aeonix_network is the X there. And then our Telegram is a very good place to answer questions to, or ask questions.
Yes. Here's the Aeonix_network X. So just thought I'd leave that up there actually for a brief bit.
I'll actually drop a little more alpha for this group, because again, there's a lot of alignment and ideology here. If you think about how Web3 incentives are designed, the idea is that by being a part of something, that you can gain a piece of it. And then the more you contribute, the earlier you are, the more you participate and benefit from the growth of that network. And this is seen traditionally in the space. You look at things like protocol airdrops and other types of alignment of incentives there. Think about the fact that we have a system that can verify and connect your social media. So we have a way to know if your social media is following our account, if you're in our Telegram groups and not. So if you're trying to optimize your alignment of incentives there and get involved with earning some of these things, it would probably be beneficial to, at minimum, be following and in our Telegram group. So just a little bit of a teaser there for what's going to be coming soon.
Awesome. I did see in the comments somebody said I need to turn up my mic a smidge. Do I sound not loud enough, or do I sound okay?
Audio sounds good on my end. It may be I'm being too loud.
No. All right. Well, we'll double check that in a bit. I did turn up a smidge, like the guy said, but all right. So Stump Rider says, "Hey, Max Crypto fam, Stump Rider, if you want to be entered into this, yeah, you came a little bit too late. But if you promise you watch the replay, how about that? Just say promise into the comments. I'll enter you in because you're an OG too, okay? Okay, so Francisco Dennis Leal is entered into it. Let's add him as well. So, all right, now let's get more interesting, okay? So Dennis Leal. All right, so now we got 3, 4, 5 people entered into this. This has been tremendous. Thank you, Team Zipper Lips. Zipper Lips. That's an interesting name. All right. Maybe you refer to the fish. That's cool. Hey, you're very welcome. Let's read this from SHX42QNT. What happens when it's downvoted? Does it go back into review and take into account the notes, comments provided if there are any? Man, SHX42QNT, I'm telling you flat out, if you want to be entered into this thing, you deserve to be entered in it because you have had some of the best questions for Evan tonight. So do you want to address that, Evan?
Yeah, actually, Max and I talked earlier about potentially doing some giveaways, and that is going to be something that we're going to be diving to more in the future. But I have always been an advocate of rewarding contributions, and I'll absolutely I'll echo your statement here, Max. I think that these questions have been fantastic in a number of different ways, and it really shows that whoever this person is, they are thinking about these things in a way that most people aren't doing right now. So as a recognition, a token of recognition, I'm going to give you a literal token, and we're going to give you $50 of ONIX tokens for your contributions to having such high quality questions. Don't get me wrong, there's been a lot of great questions. I've just uniquely appreciated some of the technical elements of this particular user's questions. Because again, here, what you're referencing, yeah, when you look at how AI systems can be improved, a simple up or down vote is actually one of the most powerful things you can do to improve the system. You have it in pretty much every open public AI system. And when you downvote it, yes, it's flagged. It's something that we're going to review. And then in the upvote, it's the same thing. So there still is humans in the loop in this process to evaluate and to oversee the process and to also to interpret. This is important. The key to good AI is having people involved that understand what they're trying to accomplish and as much as they can how the system works. So yeah, it absolutely, it flags it either way, and it's just applied in different types of systems.
Cool. And
Yeah,
you said
then,
that
there's a feedback section too, so you're absolutely correct.
so you said that, if I'm not mistaken, he won 50 of the ONIX tokens. He just needs to reach out to you or something.
$50 of ONIX tokens. So after this, we'll take a look and see what the price of the token is and calculate what $50 of the token translates to. And then I'll have probably Max reach out to you on behalf of us and get whichever wallet you would like us to send that to, and then we'll take care of that for you.
Okay. Sounds good. I'll have to look out for SHX42QNT. Okay. All right. Let's go further down. Again, the ticker symbol of it is ONIX. I'm gonna put it down into the comments again. Let's go further down. Already answered that. What's the ticker? Gave you that earlier. Always an honor to have Cool Cat Crypto, aka Cool Cat Cosmos, in the house. Corbin, welcome. We did answer that right here. Let's see here. Sorry, you may have covered this. Can you please explain why you set the project's tokenomics, how the token gets used, and why they're so attractive? I think we covered that, but maybe you want to do a quick wrap up on that if you want.
Sure. I mean, I'll lead that within our upcoming white paper, there will be extensive documentation on the token. So you'll have far more information than from what you'll be able to glean through this interaction here. But essentially, the core principles of how it works is, one, we're not taking any dollars out of the token. So there's no claims that come from team member allocations or pre-sale or KOLs. So there's nothing that's draining against the liquidity pool. That's one big part of it. And then the other side is that the only way to use Aeonix services is by converting the ONIX token into our compute system using the payment gateway that we put together. So it essentially is this one-way street that converts and essentially locks the liquidity of the token to create this structured growth based off of usage. And then as far as the specific utilization, again, because you're translating to a compute credit, it's anything that you use the platform for. So whether it is just services and interacting with search engine, or you're creating AI agents and wanting to trade with them, or maybe you want to get involved with the digital asset line because you are a big fan of some of the elements of NFT gaming, and you think that the system that's going to be coming out here shortly is something that's a lot of fun to utilize because we're aligned on that. It's totally up to you, but it all follows the same principles if it only goes one direction through the ONIX token.
Very cool. All right, so likes the answer. Let's go further down. Vidshon or Vidsion? Vidsion! I don't know. Sorry, it's pronounced that way. It says that he appreciates me, appreciates Evan. Right on. You're 40. Okay. It was the top search through dog pile. Okay. Okay. Yeah, you're very welcome. Okay, so you are part of that. So man, you got a bonus there. So let's see here. Let's put SHX42 QNT. We're gonna put you on the list. So SHX42 QNT. We'll add you to that. Hello, Joshua Joseph. A lot of merchants can use this. I agree. Xvidsion says, yes, bring Evan on more. I like him. That's a nice compliment. No way, Jose. XRP and QT are my retirement. Me too. Me too. I don't even know, to be honest. If a lot of people will take profits. I'm not telling you what to do. I would never tell anybody what to do. The way I look at it, I like being diversified because on some of these things I will take profits, or I just get out or whatever, but on the ISO related ones, I don't know if I honestly ever really touch them. That's just me. You could agree to disagree. I would agree. QNT, very limited supply. There will be an imminent price shock, in my opinion, because based off of that very, very low supply. Mine Crypto has done an excellent job of showing you guys some of that evidence. Sebastian, who does the X Spaces with us, has been shown that as well. Let's read this. Doing one influencer with 100x followers is promoting the definition of 80% of Crypto Bros research. Okay. Yeah. I mean, it's true, right? Yeah, I'm not gonna go after those guys, but anyway. All right, let's go further down. He likes the collaboration. Cool. Thank you. Yes, we can say that, right? I mean, if they're highlighting you guys, check,
Yeah, I mean, I can just say it directly. We utilize the checked infrastructure to create our digital identity system. So our decentralized identifiers, verified credentials, DID linked resources, and trust registries are all issued using the checked infrastructure and their APIs.
All right, I'm gonna press you on something, and you could be like, Max, shut up. It's okay. So checked is technically ISO TC 307. What about you guys moving forward? Is that a possibility?
Once again, you've given me a big question and very little time to answer it. So I will say we are an advocate of identifying and collaborating on standards because, as shared multiple times throughout the stream from different perspectives, we're entering this area of convergence where efficacy is a requirement, not just something that could be cool or useful. It's like, no, to have a fully autonomous agentic world, you have to have trustworthy and verifiable agents doing it. I mean, it's going to be increasingly obvious in retrospect. So when you look at something like standardization, and it's the same thing for interoperability, if people aren't working together and creating frameworks or working on frameworks that can talk to each other, you're just going to end up with more and more fragmentation. We've heard this, we've seen this, we have references and documentation. I know this community is all about not creating walled gardens, but it applies not just to being able to have your systems talk to each other and your agents talk to each other, but it actually translates all the way into your trust frameworks. How do you have credentials and issuers of credentials that can be recognized by other frameworks and schemas? So as an example, like we use checked for our decentralized identifiers, but let's say another company produces a decentralized identifier from their schema and they have it aligned to their particular product. How do you have that trusted root interact with this trusted root? So there's a lot of big questions that need to be addressed right now. And actually that's why we joined the DIA, the DAIAA, the Decentralized AI Agent Alliance, and we're working in a couple of their subgroups to help standardize some of the best practices for how AI agents are created, designed, and managed, both in public-facing kind of Web3 environments and as well as private business applications. And while it's a bit early to dive too much more into that, I will say we have seen a pretty significant positive reception to our relatively unique architecture and methodology, and then the ultimate results that that's able to generate with consistency and privacy and verifiability.
What an answer! That was a great answer. You know, I'll just tell on my friend, Michael, not Michael in this community, different Michael. He practices constitutional law. You and him speak almost identical, even though you're not into constitutional law. Anyway, I thought that was interesting. I'm like, who am I talking to? I'm talking to Evan or talking to my buddy Michael Levins, you know? Anyway. All right, let's go further down into this. So the truth shall set Aeonix free. Yes, free at last, free at last. Thank God Almighty, we are free at last. All right, let's go further down. Just going to read the last bit of comments. Yes, trust and trust. Will you ever consider a zero knowledge identifier? You got some good questions, but we're going to have to wrap this up pretty soon. So I would say this might be the last question. You want to answer that?
I can just address it super quick. Technically, It is a zero knowledge system. It's just kind of a different architecture for how you get there. And you could absolutely then have that recognize other types of like ZKP systems.
Okay, that's fair enough. Yeah, you got very welcome on that. I guess I'll read this real quick. Biggest VC merger of the top companies, spent 400 million and bought the Toncoin. Oh, okay, you're talking about Toncoin. That's all right. That might be a conversation with somebody else. All right, let's go. Qbot has been fun to utilize. Well done, Evan. Okay, only because I love Stump Rider. He's an OG member of the community. Evan, that's a typo. It's okay. What's your long-term vision for AI agent autonomy versus human oversight? This might be the second best question of the night. I would say this and SHX42 QNT. Good question. So I guess we'll take a moment on this one, but in reality, we are going to wrap it up soon.
That's such a good question. I don't even know if I'm honestly qualified to answer it, but I'll try. I think I would start with looking at the reality of where these systems are going and what they're trying to do. Like we're exiting this novel phase where applications and deployments of AI are just about making something with AI. Like, hey, you can talk to it, or hey, look, it can make images, or it can, animate X, Y, and Z. We're now to the place where AI is accessible and ubiquitous enough to where everyone understands more or less that this is a better way to do things. You can speed things up, you can save time, you can save money, you can have an advantage over things that don't use it. And the question is now evolving into, well, how do you go from this place where we all kind of agree where things are going to go, but we don't necessarily know how to do it, and we certainly don't agree upon what the best way to do it. So that's where this whole idea of standards comes into play. And that is part of the answer. Like, well, it has to be done in a collaborative enough environment to where the solutions that are built the right way are also the solutions that people are using and applying into their products. Like if you look at something like crypto and you take the ideology and methodology of someone like the Quant community, just as an example that we're familiar with, we know that there are beliefs that are relatively unique to that particular community that are not necessarily existing all throughout the whole crypto space. So if you want to have people that can come in and build applications that are actually kind of creating the world that you wanted to see and the world that you wanted to be a part of, then you have to have people actually doing that work. Otherwise, you just have a bunch of people looking in on a very small group of people that are just going to continuously do things as they have been. So there's this call to action for people to get involved and to contribute. There is this need for standardization. And then ultimately I would wrap it up with, well, then we have to evaluate based off of practical evidence. We have to have a pragmatic perspective to systematically evaluate things in a way that is universally understood. We can't speak in layers of rhetoric where we're just using buzzwords, we're relying on things that are intentionally complex and vague just to suffice for trust. What we have to do is meet on a level playing field, agree upon how things should be done, measured, and created, and then collectively, or maybe collaboratively compete to create things that move things forward. That's maybe the philosophical question. Maybe what you were looking for is that you have to have humans involved, and that you can't create these fully autonomous loops and expect for them to just be a one size fits all. Even if you have something that works, like as soon as you remove humans from that, you start to run into issues. And if you look at a lot of the major papers that are coming out on AI developments and AI research recently, you're seeing almost universally the biggest AI companies in the world, the biggest and most well-funded research institutions, and some of the most influential corporate leaders in the technology space are all pointing toward the same thing. And it's that larger and bigger language models are not the answer. More data is not necessarily always the answer. And removing humans is certainly not the answer. So if we are going to, and inevitably we are, advance to a place where the standard is autonomous, then it has to be done meeting these conditions. And it can only be done so if we're evaluating them and approaching them from these perspectives. I hope that answers your question. Again, I don't think I'm actually qualified to answer that, but I hope that adds clarity.
Qualified to answer. Heck, you're more qualified with your response than most people when it comes to their answers. How about that? That was very articulate. A very articulated answer. So we appreciate that. Here's another good question. I keep saying that we won't do any more questions, but this is good. Stump Rider. By the way, Stump Rider, I did see, where you said share, so I did enter you into the giveaway. He says, question, do you plan to offer APIs for third-party developers to build on Aeonix? I would say yes. To me, that makes sense, but I want to hear, he wants to hear from you.
Yeah, actually, the Aeonix relational engine is actually already available as an API and is leveraged in some of our private builds. So we actually have clients that utilize Aeonix APIs in some part of their technology architecture. But as far as bringing that out into a completely open and public-facing API, it's not as much a question of do we want to and can we do it, as much of a question of is it the most strategic thing to offer right now when evaluating the opportunity cost, the investment, and the ultimate outcome for what you can gain from that. The way that we see moving forward publicly is in releasing essentially open source free applications that can involve microtransactions for people to get involved with at an optional level or monetize their own data. It just makes a lot more sense from a number of different levels. But I'm happy to elaborate on that in other sessions or privately.
I have to ask this, okay? So, for example, like Hedera, they have like saucer swap. You know what I mean? I don't know if you're familiar with saucer swap. Saucer swap. What is wrong with me? I'm a wascally wabbit or something. Saucer swap has anti-mev bots on their platform. I know you guys are like, it's not about all these things, but I just thought I would ask, like, is there any chance, because we're talking about AI agents, moving forward, maybe down the road, you would have some kind of anti-mev bot mechanism? Because, I mean, those mev bots, they come in and they snipe it, man. They snipe it, and then people get blamed, oh, what's going on, man? These guys are dumping or something. It's not about that. It's just the sniper bots come in and they do their thing, and they're in and they're out. You know what I mean? So, can we get good with the AI? Is what I'm saying. When it comes
you got me drawing now.
Yeah.
We're gonna get a diagram.
Really?
Oh yeah.
I asked a good question.
Yes. This is actually something I'm pretty excited about. But throughout what became known as the STE framework R&D series, we looked into how do you create balance in a token? How do you ensure that people can be early and have opportunity without things being so asymmetrically weighted that one person can just walk away with literally everybody else's money? Or even worse, some random sniper can do that. So what we essentially quantified, pun intended, we'll go more in depth on this in the future, but essentially the way that liquidity pools scale Oh no, I've got a blur effect going. This might create an issue. But if
Hold
you
on,
see,
pull it back just a tad. Just pull it back a tad, and then leave it right there for a second. Yeah, right
okay.
there, right there, right there. Okay, go ahead.
So what I'm showing you is the basic shape structure of
And
how
speak up a
liquidity.
little bit louder because you're away from the mic. So
Yeah.
I know it's challenging. Just leave it up there and speak a little bit louder. I feel like I'm
So
teaching theater school again. Go ahead.
when a token is first created, and this is assuming an environment where everything is circulating or there's no changes to the amount in supply. But basically, the people, you've heard this, if you're early to a token, you have more opportunity. I mean, that's kind of universally accepted, and for different reasons, but that concept is accepted. Here's what it actually means. When a liquidity pool grows, the amount of tokens in the pool will shrink that are available for purchase, and the amount of paired tokens, so in this case BNB or Ethereum or any other paired token, will increase. So that means that the relative share or the percentage that anybody can hold exponentially increases in weight. So as a liquidity pool scales, the dollar for dollar impact of someone to claim and have a right to that liquidity pool is exponentially decreasing. So you have this kind of inverse tiered relationship where traditionally almost nobody gets access to tokens here. This is just for your protocol owners and the developers, the team, and so forth. And then you have like the alpha and the KOLs and the private insight where people have a reason where they still heard about it early. And then you have the people who are doing their own research and trying to find signals in different ways and are still legitimately finding things before others. And at the very end, you have the majority of people where most people get access to the token at the very end. And the problem this creates is that because the pool has scaled so much, the amount of money it takes to actually move the token is so enormously significant that it is almost impossible to continue to scale that token up in a decentralized environment. And then inversely so, the ability for people to take a piece out of that pool has now grown exponentially. So you can't scale a token without having these risks where one person, whether it's a bot or not, can just walk away with all the money. And so by applying this reverse engineered framework, we've essentially created a dynamically weighted system where there is the most optimal amount of opportunity for people at their respective levels of entry and scaling size without giving any one person too much control or the ability to get into that. And then part of that, to actually answer your question, is how do you make sure that you don't get bots in? How do you make sure that you don't have snipers in? We actually identified a set of actions that can be taken that will eliminate most of the bots out there. There's actually, so it's all operating off of conditional actions. It's looking for certain events and triggers and parameters to meet its trading conditions to then enter and exit the trade. But it also has safety features built in. So if you know how it works and you know what they're looking for, you can kind of build it in a way to where it games it against them. And then the bots actually don't know how to do that. They don't know how to compete with that. And so when you look at the ONIX token, and you'll see this in our documentation that will be coming out increasingly over time, the token looks like it went like 1,000% or 10,000% or whatever in a very short period of time. And it looks like it's already scaled out. But the reality is that's actually just how the protocol is designed to function. It's not even worth acknowledging as part of something you should consider. So we've eliminated where the greatest degree of risk is and created an environment that can scale without these asymmetric risks that traditionally occur in tokens. I know that was a lot, but I have
okay.
a lot of documentation on this, and we have a whole research series we're going to do. It's called SOK, the Standardization of Knowledge, and it's all about fundamentals. So just in the same way we're working on standardizing the efficacy and approaches and methodology for creating autonomous infrastructure, we're also looking at the economic frameworks behind them. So if you're going to have a whole world where everything is tokenized, but your system of measuring is so fundamentally incorrect that it's like trying to build a rocket with two different measurement systems, then inevitably you're going to have issues. So We'll talk more about it. That's kind of a high level. You got a little drawing out of me, but I hope that answers your question.
I just want to state this. I've been covering blockchain DLT for about 4.5 years now, and I've come across some people in the past where, nothing against them, I'll mention any names, where they clearly have faked it. You, sir, you're not faking anything. I'm totally convinced that, like, your crap, your stuff. You're very, your stuff, man. I like that. It's very impressive. All right. I want to read this. This is a good comment. Team Zipperlift says, I truly enjoy this. I'm 60 years old and I just learned a ton. That's always been the mission here on this channel. Thank you for that. Really do appreciate that. People are liking this. Let's read this also in. I'd like to be entered. Okay, you already are. My name is actually Rebecca Joy. Okay, well, thanks, Rebecca. Nice to interact with you guys. Thank you for answering my questions. The stream has been incredible. Maximus, I'll watch all your deep dives on Quant. Thanks. Also SHX, and have learned so much. I got a new SHX video. It's supposed to be dropped today, but it got so hot in Phoenix that like wiped out the grid on my side of town. It was so bad, but we're back up and running, and obviously a lot much cooler. But anyway, so much hours. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I know I'm up there with a lot of the research, maybe 9,000, 10,000 hours. I don't know. I have to add it up someday. It's hard to do that, but I do appreciate that. I didn't skip your comment. You're like, oh, you skipped my comment. So Team Zipper Lips, I'm gonna add you as well on the giveaway. Team Zipper Lips, what a name. All right, so let's see here. Is that basically it? I don't think so. Might be it. You guys got some other questions? We got to really wrap it up. I do appreciate you guys got some great questions. How are you getting this out to the masses? I would never known about this if I haven't been a member of Max's group. We'll probably do a chopped up version because live shows don't get the views compared to a recorded one. So I'll definitely try to chop this up. I got a lot on my agenda, especially with all the content with Smoke and Jesse. But yeah, you're very welcome. Keep it simple. Yes, yes.
There's a good bolt on actually, because it ties in to the opportunity. Yes, diagrams. I love it. How does this message get out? How do messages move in crypto? People align with some type of liquid incentive, and then once done so, are inherently incentivized to help share information. So by eliminating a lot of the things that normally work against you in a token, in terms of like how arguably fair it is, or your opportunity to appreciate in capital, we've essentially supercharged the incentives for people that are getting involved with the community. So you could say, oh, it has under 100 holders. That's maybe not a good thing because there's not many people in it. But the reality is, because there's nothing working against you, it's just the foundation waiting for people to come and get involved. So, well, absolutely, from our side, we'll continue to produce information and content and work with these incredible content creators like Max. And again, he's been so generous in hosting us here today. But ultimately, the true potential for how Aeonix grows and the rate at which it does is determined by the actions the community takes. So you have an increasing number of people that are excited about something and sharing information. That energy is so enormously powerful that it is the overwhelming driver that represents whether or not a token can appreciate or depreciate in value, again, in a vacuum. So we'll do what we can. And if this is something that you want to help support, I would encourage you all to get involved with social media. Follow us on X, join our Telegram, share communication, post your own content. And as I alluded to earlier, you're actually going to be able to earn from posting about Aeonix. So using the cash tag, tagging the project, talking about our technology, sharing different documentation pieces, and every key milestone that comes up will all have passive weight for unique user incentives. So maybe a little bit too much I've shared there, but again, alpha for people staying with us this long.
Yeah, absolutely. The other thing I want to jump into is just maybe recognizing like just a couple more comments. So ISO Maxi, yes, great interview. Thank you very much. Thanking Evan as well. I do appreciate that. You're in Tennessee. That's cool. I was out there last November. Heat Round. Hey, always good to have Heat Round. He always is following us on the X Spaces. That's something we're looking forward to. Yeah, I'll get that post Evan's info after the show. I did post his info, but just in case you guys missed it, here it is. We'll just go ahead and post that right there. Okay. So, oh, after the show. All right. Well, it's I mean, I'll just type it into the comments, copy and paste it. You can be followed on X. Here he is. The what's it called? 3-toe sloth 1. All right. Yeah, you're very welcome. We are at the bottom. So there's of course some other questions that didn't get answered. We can't necessarily answer every question, but whatever the case be, we're gonna do the giveaway finally. Let me show you guys who we got on this list. Okay, so let's go ahead and share this on the screen. So here's the people that participated. It's V, GS, Gotta Love Me, Rory, Dennis Leal, SHX, 42 QNT, who is Rebecca, Stump Rider, and Team Zipper Lips. Okay. I'm going to give you guys one last chance. If there's anybody that was supposed to be on the list, just pipe up now because this is your last chance. With that said, we're going to have some closing with you, Evan. Anything that you want to talk about closing in that regard? I guess I'll read this because I know it's the second time you asked this, Gotta Love Me. I know that NIST is part of ISO TC 307. I covered that in a few videos. Do you want to answer that? Do you guys pass the whole thing with NIST?
I think just to keep things simple, by using the checked infrastructure, we're automatically compliant with like GDPR and other like common data usage guidelines. Specifically on post quantum through NIST, I would have to look exactly at what and where those differentiators could be, but to the degree that checks infrastructure is, yes.
Yeah, that's big because I mean, NIST they've been around a long time. I mean, I think maybe late 80s, early 90s, something like that. Anyway. All right. So yeah, any closing comments from you, sir, Evan?
I just want to give a heartfelt thanks to first yourself and your team and anyone involved in behind the scenes to host us today, and then the people that helped us get here. Dragon Labs has a public-facing network of team members, but it also has a private network of people that contribute with research and their opinions and help test products. And each one of those people has played an instrumental role in helping us get there. And I know that some of these people don't really want a whole lot of recognition, so that's not what we're here to talk about. But those people, if they're listening, they know exactly who they are, and they know just how much we appreciate their support this entire process. To the audience, you guys have all been listening to me ramble for 2 hours and 37 minutes, so you're amazing. Thank you so much. It's truly humbling to see this many people getting excited about something that we're now finally able to start sharing and release with everyone. This has been an initiative that we created because we wanted to do something that met our vision and values for what Web3 infrastructure can be and how you can use decentralized technology to create environments that allow people to cooperate and optimize their incentives. If you like this, or if it's interesting, my ask is that you get involved, whether that's on social media, whether it's contributing with the products or anything beyond. Join the community. We'd love to have you. Please keep asking questions. We're huge advocates for education and research. And hopefully we'll do some other communication and events in the future. But again, thank you all so much.
You're very welcome. Well said. We're going to get into it. I know some of you guys were late, and that's okay. You can always watch the replay. I think we had some other questions, but we're wrapping things up. So I didn't hear anybody else state, hey, I'm not on that list. Again, one of the rules is you have to be basically like an OG follower for at least a year plus. And anyway, we're gonna finally get into that. So let's share the tab for that. Let's pull it up, and just to double check, actually, just to make sure we're on the same page, Evan. This is going to be like what I did with doing with the Decent Wallet giveaway. So at least one Decent Wallet, and then on top of that, You're saying that you're going to do that the extra one for, was it $200 worth of credits? Explain that again.
Yep. So we're gonna back your giveaway winner today with an additional $200 of compute credits on the Aeonix platform, and then we're also awarding that question response of $50 in ONIX tokens to the documented user. And I've got their info here.
Okay, cool. So guys, whoever wins this, you have to reach out to me on X. I can be followed at DPG Maximus. Like literally, you see it right, on the bottom of my screen area. DPG Maximus on X. Make sure you're following DPG Maximus on X, not DPG Puppy Dog Inu or DPG Max One. No, DPG Maximus. I'm the only one with the blue check mark. So it's got to be me. It can't be some of my imitators that are out there, and there's some, and I report them. But they keep popping up like these meth bots, right? So make sure you're following me and not these other ones. And then when you do, if you are the winner, for one on the decent wallet, I'll need, I know some people are kind of iffy about this, so I'm not trying to get personal with you. I'm not trying to hook up with you or anything like that. I'm just trying to get your address, your mailing address, for we can send the decent wallet out to you. It won't come from me, from my own personal mailing address. So, hey, I'm sorry to disappoint you all with that. It will come literally from the decent wallet mailing address. So if you're on the western side of the United States, it will most likely come from the distribution department, which is in Los Angeles, California. And I believe they might have one on the East Coast. So if they don't, either way, it's going to come from Los Angeles. It's going to be from IO Trust is the name. That's the oversight of Decent Wallet. So again, a disclaimer, make sure you follow me at DPG Maximus. One more disclaimer, and it's because I get a lot of inquiries, all right? I'm not saying I'm busier than the president. I'm not. But you'll be surprised how many questions I get every single day. If there's a ton, okay? You have, as of right now, let's look at the time, okay? So 6 p.m. Pacific. 6:07, we'll just say 6 p.m. Pacific. So you have 48 hours. You have until Sunday, or actually, we'll just make it even. Longer than that, 72. You got till Monday at 6 p.m. Pacific to get me your info. If you don't send it to me, you forfeit your giveaway. I'm just being honest, okay? I'm not gonna like pull teeth to find people to give them something, okay? Not my style. So anyway, that's a disclaimer. And then also in regard to this, the $200 worth of credits that Evan was talking about, we'll coordinate myself with him and how to get that over to you. All right, now let's just jump into it. Just double checking real quick on the other screen that there was no late stragglers. There wasn't. Okay, so with that said, here's the screen. Here are the entry participants. Okay, we have VGS, Gotta Love Me, Rory, Dennis Lil, SHX 42QNT, Stump Rider, Team Zipperlips. I believe that's it. All right, so we're going to go ahead and spin this. And here we go. The winner is Dennis Leal, Francisco. Dennis Leal. Now you may think, I didn't win. Maximus is only going to give it. Maximus is only going to give it away to one person. It's not fair. Leave now before the admin bans me. I might not get my Eagle Scout badge. Well, you're going to get more than an Eagle Scout badge, okay? We're going to give away one more. All right? So the catch is we're going to take Dennis Lil off the list because he can't win two. All right? Sorry, Dennis Lil. All right? So we're going to spin this one more time, and this will be the final one we give away tonight. Now, we have some other ones we're giving away on the Patreon, so just giving you guys a heads up on that. All right, so let's spin it again. Here we go. Good luck. Boom! Boil it, mash it, stick in the stew. GS. So 2 OGs have won. GS and Dennis Lil. How cool is that? Doing it big. Been a while since we've done a giveaway here at Maximus Crypto. Please reach out to me. GS, I'm pretty sure you might have an X. I can't remember. But you're going to be getting an X now because X going to give it to you. Forget about you waiting for your decent wallet on your own, X going to deliver it to you. And with that said, congratulations to you too. So
And enjoy your additional $200 in credits, because we're going to extend this to this winter too.
oh wow, okay, doing it big. Listen to that, ain't that cool? That is so cool. So again, congratulations to Francisco, Dennis Lil, and GS. Very, very cool. And okay, so GS, you have one, and then I'll just get with Francisco. He might be like, navigating. He's always checking out other streams, but we won't keep you guys any further. If you don't mind, Evan, just backstage just for a brief bit, just to kind of talk about some stuff. And yeah, look at all these comments. You guys are freaking sweet. Look at all this. Dennis Lil, congratulations. Yes, yes. We saw that we did it fair. It wasn't, some people were like, rigged, man. It was rigged, man. Just like, you talking about the XRP, man. It's all rigged. No, it's not rigged. We made it nice and fair. Okay. And you saw that on the screen. So yes. Winner, chicken dinner. Yes, well done, all that good stuff. And with that also said, I don't want to keep me and Evan too long. There won't be any outro this time. Usually there's a cool outro. No outro. You guys have a great weekend. I will state this. Give me a follow. I didn't meant to mention this because I deserve this, right? Give me a follow over on Patreon. I have exclusive content there. We have, I don't know, like 120 plus Patreons. Most of them are free, but we got some, I think about roughly 23 paid, which is cool. I do post extended premium coverage over there, also gems. The Patreons were the first to know about Aeonix, so if you want to get on early, even extra early on some of the stuff, check it out over on the Patreon. And as you see there, patreon.com/MaximusCrypto. And that's it. That's a show. Thank you so much. Evan will be backstage, and we'll see you guys. Be safe out there. Don't do anything crazy. And if you're in Phoenix, well, God help your air conditioning, because mine is going crazy right now. Anyway, we'll say over and out. Sayonara from the Rice Crop Consortium, even though we're not talking about Jasmine. We'll see you guys on the next one. And in the future, we will have Evan back. You can count on that one. All right? Peace out.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.